I'm kind of reading the chat too. So hopefully, again, we're using StreamYard here, so this is only the second time I've used it. Might work okay. I don't like the fact you're limited by 6, but
yeah,
it's convenient. But I still be using the slobs. But I really do got to adjust the audio levels with the slobs. So
yeah,
what I'm going to try to do is, I have a voice meter banana, but I'm going to try to like figure out how to get the equalization from my audio connections to your guys' audio connections by using Skype, because for some reason Skype just completely just it auto gains and it just throws everything off between your mic and my mic. But anyways,
Skype's
hi
not so
everyone.
good for-
So now can you read the live chat here, because I'm sure they're gonna have some questions.
Yeah, let's take a look
All right.
and see what everybody is saying.
So I'll give a brief synopsis. Yeah, it was a shit show. And by the way, the only reason I actually went in there because it wasn't really a formal debate, right? Even Tom had admitted that it was just kind of, exhibition kind of thing, right? But he had material facts that were incorrect, and I was going to set them straight. So that's why I went in there, and then he was just being very demeaning, like he is, usually is. But the fact is, a T-Jump doesn't do any due diligence. He doesn't prepare for any of these debates. When I do a debate, I study for a week on end, maybe 2. I prepare for it, and I know a lot of debaters do it that way. He does no prep work whatsoever. And I know that like Lucifer Almighty was commenting earlier that TJ is not a good debater. I don't think he is either. And I'm sure he doesn't care about my opinion one or another, but he doesn't really know how to debate. All he does is deflect. And that's not the kind of debate that I want to listen to. And so I don't really follow T-Jump. I don't think his epistemology makes sense. I don't think his ethical framework makes sense. But, I decided to jump in, just at least set the record straight. Now, there's all this talk about, obviously when you're on like Modern Day Debates channel, there's going to be trolls there, right? There's people that hated me for years because of GDC. I get that. Fuck them, whatever. They don't seem to care. They understand that I don't watch any of their shit. I don't mention their names. I don't talk about them. I have no relevancy with them. They're nothing to me.
Who dis?
Yeah, who dis? They're absolutely nothing to me, but they think they're still meaningful. Whatever. They do no damage to me. They're insignificant in my life. But, other people like that were associated with the Non-Sequitur Show asking certain questions. But what they don't seem to realize is that they don't know the facts of the matter, and all they're doing is taking like little quips by what I've said before in relationship to trying to be as honest as possible, which sometimes gets me in trouble, but I try to be as honest as possible, but they're taking that to mean something completely different, right?
Yeah,
because they do that on purpose. There's no principle of charity whatsoever there. It's like, oh, Steve committed fraud. Steve did this for Medi-Cal. If there's any evidence for that, why hasn't Kyle shown it? And why isn't my lawyer worried about that at all? And again, you don't take my word for it. Every communication I've had with my lawyer, Glenn has had. And I've told Glenn he can say whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't really make sense for it. A lot of it is just trolling and trolling trolling poorly. And it's
trolling poorly.
It's the thing is, you have to, if you're going to troll, you have to pick your targets. And the problem is you can't pick a target who's honest.
They don't seem to understand that their trolling has no effect on me whatsoever. I don't respond to them. I don't watch their videos. So they can waste all the time they want. They're just screaming from beneath their beds, that they would say, like with the true empiricism. All they're doing is just screaming from underneath their beds. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. They should go back to wasting time with G-Man.
Yeah, just screeching into the void.
But whatever. I like I said, it doesn't matter to me. The people that know about this stuff, like you've seen records, you've seen things I've shown you. Glenn has as well. Other people have. They know that everything I've said is straight up 100% true. You have physical confirmation.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's been I think I've basically you've made an excessive amount of information public. More than you would ever need to. I mean,
yeah, more than I should, but I've also showed you things of the private that I won't show.
Yeah, yeah, but realistically, you don't even need to go into whatever's been shared privately, because just the amount that's out there publicly is so definitive in its results or its impact and what it means. So, like, if even if, I think we've talked about this before, even if you were the worst person on the planet, and even if you were lying about everything, this has still been handled poorly. This is still not the way you do business. This is still not the way things work. So it doesn't it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Let's say everything that people were saying about it was true, which is clearly not, but let's say hypothetically or arguendo it was. How does that justify what Kyle's action was?
It doesn't. There's nothing. The thing is that I don't know if there's a single piece of it outside of, I don't know. Kyle's like, I've been mind fucked by an alien. That's
And you can't. What I don't get is you can't report shit that you're not told what you even earned. There's no
Yeah.
financial records, right?
Yeah, that's one of
I-
the most demeaning. That's one of the most destructive pieces that exist. It's like you can't claim on money you don't have.
Yeah, and the trolls don't give a shit about the truth. This is the fact. This is the fact. Trolls do not care what's true or not. All they're trying to do is run a narrative. That's it. People that I trust, you can come to me. I'll show you anything you want to see. I just won't make certain things public, right? Because one, I don't show private communications because I have ethical concerns with that. Other people don't have ethical concerns with that. I do, but I will show people a lot of stuff. And you know what? I have not had one person that I've shown go, yeah, you know what, Steve? I don't believe you. Not one. Not one. It's black and white. By the way, we got a super chat real quick.
Yep.
You have one job.
Oh, I'm doing the super chats?
Why not? You have the voice for
okay.
it.
For your next, this is from
Doing your GLaDOS voice.
Josiah Hansen, $2 in my GLaDOS voice.
Yeah, GLaDOS voice.
$2 from Josiah Hansen for your next beer.
Come on, you guys. You gotta admit, that's fucking pretty good, ain't it?
I'm out of practice.
Yeah, that wasn't your
haven't done
best,
it in
but
a
it was
while.
still pretty good.
And I'm pretty sure we got one from Modern Day Debate that hasn't popped up yet. So, yeet yeet, smash that like button, friends.
That one?
Yeet. Yeet,
You don't,
yeet.
you don't want to do that in GLaDOS? $2 from...
GLaDOS would never say yeet.
I'll do her. See, wait a sec. From
You will do
Modern Day Debate, yeet yeet, smash that like button, friends. I can't do it.
Friends. It's got an exclamation mark. Friends.
GeoStreamer can probably do GLaDOS. GeoStreamer's okay. Let me tell you about GeoStreamer. And by the way, I'm gonna try to get it right. GeoStreamer. It's the first time I think I've ever pronounced that with a German accent correctly, or semi. But I played Portal 1, and he kept asking me, "Are you gonna finish? Are you gonna finish it?" I finally finished it. Right? It was a good game, right? When are you gonna play Portal 2? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have that much time. I started playing Portal 2. Great game. Halfway through it. Are you done yet? I'm like, I started it yesterday, man.
I mean, to be fair, they're not very long games.
No, they're not. They're not.
You could
but
do
it was
both.
fun.
You could probably do both of them in a day, like all of them, including like the multiplayer of the second one. If you were like, if you're any good at puzzles and if you felt like you wanted to just sit down and plow through it.
By the way, yeah, this is open. I can fit 4 more people in if you want to come in. Just message me on Twitter. I do everything on Twitter now as far as DMs, so message me.
Yeah, there was I didn't get to see the whole debate. The parts I did see, it seemed like there's like a little bit of misinformation that was like, well, nope, that's not right. That is not the case.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to ask Tom. Did you do any research? Did you watch any of the videos?
Yeah, exactly.
Because everything he said was basically wrong because these were non-contested things.
Yeah, a lot of it. And there were things like I went out of my way and made a full playlist in order. What do you want from me? I can't make this information any easier to access.
Yeah, I like I said, the people that are on the other side, they don't care a shit about the facts. It's just they're butthurt about me. They're going to say whatever they want to say about me. It doesn't matter. Facts are facts. There's nothing legally that I did wrong by any stretch of imagination. There's nothing ethically I've done wrong. I have a 12-page civil litigation suit in the works. It should be finalized very soon. It's going to be filed very soon. That tells you all you need to know, right? And it will be public and people can read it. But
again, and even if you had done or not done something that you should have done, it's irrelevant to whether or not what's going on is appropriate business conduct.
Right. And this is what I wanted to ask. This is why I wanted to ask the community when I wrote my letter to Mr. Atheist, that why is not the community asking him, where's this money? Right. The friends of the NonSequitur Show, the 4,000 people that left that channel that came over to mine, the people that have donated, why are they not going ahead and ask Kyle, what happened? And a lot of them are, but they're being blocked, right? They're being deleted. Their comments are being deleted, right? But they should go to the content creators on their side and the people on Kyle's side and say, hey, why aren't you asking him for this?
Yeah, well, it's it's kind of I'm curious if people have just kind of given up on Kyle at this point because he's not providing anything. He doesn't like, they already know that the answer is nothing, right? Or maybe they are DMing him and he's just not responding to people. But in that case, maybe mention that.
This wasn't a super chat, but Rez has a really good point here. Moderated debate is as a free platform, but there's a point where you're kind of overrun. And he says your chat. I was one of those lost subs. Your chat was out of control with idiots making shit up and perpetrating lies, rumors that have been debunked. Please get mods that actually mod. And I have to agree with Rez on this. No offense to moderated debate, but you have to have some kind of consistency in your channel, and you can't just allow people to have a free for all. I have actually mods that will block all those trolls that are just making shit up that I've already addressed a million times. It's not worth it to have them around when all they're going to do is lie.
Yeah, there's there is,
and
a
you know
line.
they do.
Yeah, there's a line where you need to keep it under control, because as soon as it goes out, it will spin out forever and ever and ever, and it'll hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, I agree with that. It really will hurt you in the long run, because what happens is people no longer want to be a part of the chat. People no longer want to be a part of the channel when you have people consistently coming around just to troll.
Yeah, that's how you accidentally end up with like a community that's just going to be nothing but trolling and causing problems for not just for you, but for anybody you want to even have on your show.
Right, because people will be like, I don't want to go on that channel because it's live chat's full of trolls. But anyways, I'm gonna be. These are not super chats, but I'm gonna be showing a lot of comments here that I think are good. So.
Oh yeah, please. That's what it's all about.
So Marie says, "Hey Steve, I like Tom, but he was so stubborn and his ad homs are awkward." Well, those aren't really ad homs; those are insults, right? An ad hom is when you say you're wrong because you're like an idiot. So I don't think he ad hom me, but I've had my instances with Tom Jump before, because I pointed out that I think his epistemological framework is shit. Philosophers have pointed out that it's shit. I'm not the only one that thinks this way. I don't think he can debate very well. I think all he does is deflect. He doesn't engage. He doesn't ask difficult questions, and he doesn't ask difficult questions, and he doesn't answer difficult questions. I've noticed this. Lucifer Mighty's noticed this. Other people have noticed this. So I don't watch any of his stuff because I just find him to be completely disinteresting.
This time, there's my unfinished journey. $5 said, this time around, he more accurately reflected what Kyle has actually been saying, talking about percentage of proceeds, not mentioning ownership. Yeah, the percentage of proceeds don't matter if we don't have the books.
Right. And there was never any talk about, I'm going to get paid for the shows I'm on. We had an equal 50% partnership. I actually have it out in writing that I wanted a 50-50.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that got wrong. That I was like, well,
and I showed you
that
this.
was in writing. Yeah,
I have it on writing. I want a 50-50 partnership. She's seen it, and other people in my inner circle have seen it. That's in writing. So Tom Jump has no idea that what he's talking about when it's some kind of, you only get on what you for the shows you're on. No, we had equal business enterprise with each other, 50-50 in writing.
And also, if you watch the Death of the NonSequitur Show episode, that is that private call with Boole, Reds, Steve, and Kyle agrees that was the case, and then offers you this new deal, which you would get paid for the shows.
And he offered it back to me again. He actually offered me to go back on. Yeah, he said, I will tell you what, if Steve comes back to the show, I will give you 4 days a week plus flat earth plus perpetuity. That's what he agreed to. That's what he said. I turned him down.
I can't fathom why you would ever go into this kind of debate without having at least watched that one.
Because Tom Jump doesn't do any prep work. I've said this before. I've accused of this before. He doesn't talk about the topic. He didn't with this time, right? The title was about ethical considerations. Is it ethical to support the Non-Sequitur Show? He didn't talk about that at all. He was like, I don't care. He doesn't talk about the debate topics. I pointed this out when he had this debate with IP.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because he was about ontology, and he wanted to go into epistemology, which is a completely different subject. Other people called him on it as well.
Yeah.
Rez says, block, parry, deflect. It's like T-Jump train to be a fencer rather than a debater because he never says anything of substance. Well, and I agree with you. I don't find him to say anything of value whatsoever. He's basically, you don't understand. That's not, you're misunderstanding me. You're taking me out of context. He offers nothing of substance.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of do a little bit of the same. I don't do debates, for one, or at least I haven't done one yet. So I'm not going to claim that I am or I know what I'm doing. But I use kind of the same sort of tactics in discussions, but I'm on topic and I try to. There's a reason why I'm asking these questions. I'm not asking these questions to try and get you. I'm not asking these questions I am going somewhere with them usually, but I'm not, or demonstrating something or a flaw in the logic by following these. But like, let's follow your reasoning here. But it's not. They're not just arbitrary random questions about nothing.
Oh,
Right. And like Robert says, Steve was not Kyle's employee. That was it. I was not his employee. Now, if he would have done his taxes with a 1099 form, right, which was a subcontractor form, he would have paid taxes on that, which would have been fine. But he has to let me know how he did it, and he didn't. He doesn't let me know anything. I have no idea how to file myself. That's why I kept asking him, make sure it's right. And I have it in writing that I want to make sure all the taxes are correct on this. I don't have any, I even said I don't want to have any problem with taxes. I had problems with state tax many years ago. I don't want to go through that shit again. They will get their money, trust me. And so I wanted to make sure that all this was on the up and up.
Yeah.
So people that are saying that I was trying to defraud the system for tax exemption have no idea what I'm talking about, because I was very clear. I want no tax problems, but I was not a Kyle employee. That's not how it works in a 50% business enterprise.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys?
Hey.
That was an interesting discussion, Steve.
I knew what was going to happen. I knew TJ was not going to do any prep work.
Out of curiosity,
I'm not gonna lie. Like I mentioned in the live stream, like I'm very impartial when it comes to this. I spent like a couple of days, because we had the topic going over. I watched every possible video I could watch in reference to this. I looked at tweets, I searched, and I actually looked into the topic. And Kyle admitted to it on the live stream.
But Tom didn't watch it. But Tom didn't watch that video. He's like, show me the evidence.
It astounds me. The thing that astounds me the most was his statement. How it was evidence, but it wasn't proof, or it was proof, it wasn't evidence. One of those. And I'm like, huh? How does that?
It made no sense to me either. Trust me.
I'm like, how does that compute logically? And I'm like, what is the word, Steve? I'm very confused by this. I was looking for this word. What is the word in where you will not accept any form of evidence, no matter what it is?
Stubborn.
No, there's an actual philosophy behind it. I forgot. Matt Dillahunty mentioned it like 2 weeks ago to one of his callers. I'm trying to remember the word.
Intransigent?
There's a skeptic, and there's someone beyond skeptic.
Oh, you're talking about there's Pyrrhonian skeptic, but Pyrrhonian skeptic is somebody who doesn't think that knowledge exists.
No. There's an actual word for it. It's like anhedonic or something. I don't know what it was, but it's like an individual that.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking for it myself when you sent me the link. It just astonishes me that, to me, it came out that way. I know there's a word for it, and I like I said, Matt Dillahunty mentioned it, and when T-Jump just appeared to me, in my opinion, that's how he came out in reference to his viewpoints. Like him confessing to it is not enough. It's not like Kyle was saying something on a basis of distress or something, you know what I mean? Like it's a false confession by the police. It's like he was on his own live stream admitting to this. I just don't get that.
Yeah, I don't know what the term is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but he definitely didn't want to like talk about what's ethical and what's not. You know, it's funny was he actually sort of said certain things were unethical, which I give him props for, right? But overall, though, he didn't know the facts of the case. He didn't know the facts of the matter. Which, if you're going to go into debate, why don't you do your due diligence and at least know how much money's involved, how much has been paid, have the books been looked at? That to me is the ethical consideration here. Is why has not the books been open to people?
Well, to me, it comes down to the legal implications in regards to the funds in reference to this, Steve, is incredibly important. Now, I want to emphasize that. But for me, when it comes to the actual subject of the debate in regards to the morality of it, as I was mentioning to Tom, if you have an individual that has built up a platform like you and Kyle have from the very beginning, that platform was yours and his by co-partnership, and then you had a partner that excluded you from that position, I don't see how anybody can hold that to be moral or ethically justifiable. It's just not. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Onion says is it unethical to support NonSequitur Show? That's different from is it ethical? No, it's not. Actually, that's actually the same question only asked in the negation.
Yeah, because to me, you are the NonSequitur Show, Steve. No offense. You are a part. It's like saying, like I was mentioning with my example with Penn and Teller. You can't use a show called Penn and Teller unless you have both Penn and Teller there. And to me, when I look at your show, the Non-Sequitur Show, it's both you and Kyle. And then if you want to say, oh, I'm stepping away from the Non-Sequitur Show voluntarily, that's a different story. But you weren't voluntarily leaving. You were forced to leave out. And I just don't get how anybody can ethically justify that. I just don't.
Well, I don't think Tom Jump could, and that was the problem. And I think he knew he couldn't.
Hold on. Now Steve did tell Kyle to handle it. That means that Kyle owns the show.
By the way, Unirock, I gave you a link to come in. Unirock.
Hey, Uni.
Hi, Uni. But yeah, that's the big thing though, is that
Phallos.
You can't make
Phallos. OMPHALOS.
No, the Omphalos hypothesis is that last Tuesdayism. They're saying that the Earth was created 6 days ago. You can't prove that, right? That's the Omphalos hypothesis.
All right.
Yeah, like going back to like I was
wrong,
saying that my biggest issue on this statement was like when I'm looking at it, I'm like, so if like Steve, if you told me you're agnostic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to have like extreme skepticism? If you told me you're agnostic, I don't believe you're agnostic. You know, that's the statement I got from Tom when he made that statement on that. It's like I tell you when I'm an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to believe I'm an atheist because there's no evidence for it.
Yeah, I don't get his position. I don't understand. Look, Tom is supposed to be writing a book in epistemology, and every philosopher I've talked to is amazed by that. It's like it's like this guy's writing a book on epistemology because I don't think he understands any of the concepts, and he wants to think that I don't. Okay, great, but I'm the one talking to actual philosophers, and the ones that I talk to think that he has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I'm gonna hit the super chats real quick. Modern Day Debate, thanks for the feedback on our live chat. Our live chat being infested with trolls. If you guys are on a Modern Day Debate soon, I'd be honored to wrench you so we can fix it. Smiley face.
Where was that? I missed it.
I'm just super chats. And then Unfinished Journey for $5 said, lost super chat. I thought it was interesting how T-Jump tried to steelman Kyle in the first time around, calling Non-Sequitur a 50-50 partnership. Yeah, I think they're referring to specifically Eunuch Rock. Like that. I think that if I'm not mistaken, Journey is referring to the debate with Reds. Right, the one that happened right near the beginning of things.
Let me give you guys a little secret here. T-Jump has one goal. All he wants to do is test his epistemological framework arguments because he's writing a book and he says that his arguments can destroy any argument. And so all he wants to do is test it. He doesn't give a shit about the topic. He doesn't give a crap about the argument. He doesn't do any due diligence. And I find that to be a disingenuous way to approach an argument because he has said more than one occasion, you guys can go find this out and you go ask him, do you give a shit about any debate you do? No, he doesn't. All he wants to do is test his foolproof epistemological framework.
This is a very similar. This is a very similar.
I'm not even exaggerating. Go ask him.
Well, I'll take your word for it for the time being, Steve. But as far as my knowledge goes, I'm going to have to confirm that. But I'll take your word for it for the time being. But when it comes to another live streamer, there's another individual that has a very similar approach, and that's a guy named Destiny. I don't know who you know who that is.
Destiny, no, I do know Destiny. He's been on the Non-Sequitur Show. He has a very similar approach to that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of Destiny's way of debating either, for that very reason.
It's like the Ben Shapiro type of debaters, in my opinion. But I'm not a.
Yeah, but Kyle was a big fan of Destiny, and I was like, he's not that good. All he does is very belligerent, and he just kind of steamrolls people, but he doesn't answer the difficult questions, and he doesn't really ask the difficult questions, at least the ones I've seen.
Well, see, to be fair, I'm typically more on Destiny's side in regards to politics and stuff. And to me, the biggest problem when it comes to like debates in relation to your situation is you can talk about the moral implications in regards to the financial aspects. There's no way anybody will individually know that unless you are directly tied into the situation like you and Kyle are. There's no way to be able to make that claim. But I just don't understand. That's when I was very confused by the topic and where we were going at, is because the discussion was in reference to, is it moral to support the Non-Sequitur Show no matter all the situations that occur? And as far as my understanding goes, that included not only the financial aspects, but also the way that you departed from the show or were removed from the show. That's my understanding what the original part of the debate was too.
I would
But maybe
probably
I'm
just
wrong.
make the argument that there isn't really a show to support at this point.
Well, yeah, no, there isn't a show to support, and right. I mean, the non-sequitur show is, from my understanding, is completely dead because that partnership, even though it hasn't been dissolved yet because we have to go through litigation to do so. I'm not. I mean, I am one half of the non-sequitur show, whether Kyle likes it or not. That's legal, and so I haven't absolved myself of that. He has to actually dissolve that through the court system. That's going to take time, and that will take more money out of his pocket. Because we are suing not just for the amount past due, not just for perpetuity, but we're also suing for legal cost, which we can under North Carolina state law.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, somebody has said we can't. They're stupid. My
Is that where you and Kyle are based out of? Steve,
no, he is, but we have the jurisdiction for Gulfport County, which is North Carolina, under North Carolina general statute. Because of what Kyle's actions have done, it justifies us to go after him for all legal cost. So when people say, "Well,
it's not even GE and atheists. It's just GE. GE's the only guest on that show right now.
Yeah, Jimmy's
not a guest on that show. Jimmy is simul-streaming on his own.
Well, that's true. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think this whole debacle, Steve, it comes down to a symptom that's been going across social media. And I know maybe you'll disagree with my position on this, but
I'm already considering that.
What's that?
I said I'm already considering that.
Well, no, to me, the implications on this is something I've been experiencing even on my side, because you guys know what my positions are on different subjects if you guys have looked at my Twitter feed. And I've been noticing this too. It's the purity politics behind things. You know what I mean? If you don't have absolute similar opinions with other individuals, they have a tendency to either try to expunge you from their realm of their circle, or they aren't willing to even just listen to you. You know, like it's something you mentioned, Steve, in regards to the tribalism that's involved. And I think it's getting a little bit too out of hand. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's the case here. I specifically don't think that's the case here because Kyle hasn't made any argument against Steve.
No, but see,
he hasn't said I'm factually wrong on anything. He's admitted to everything that I've said.
To me, it stems down to the actual situation that occurred, like I said, with the initial the initial split. How Kyle reacted and how he treated that situation is where I'm conflicted in regards to this whole scenario. Just on the simple basis that Steve was left out of his own platform that he helped create. As I said, I find that incredibly immoral.
But that has nothing to do with politics.
But that was the topic of the debate.
Not politics, not political tribalism, just tribalism in general. I apologize
that's fine. That's fine.
I see what you're saying.
And I'm not disagreeing with him on that. But that was the topic of the debate, right? Yep. That had to do with the unethical considerations of supporting the non-sequitur show. That means by giving, financial or viewership to that particular channel right now.
Yep.
Now, again, I'm not telling what people to do. I've never, ever, contrary to what people have said, I've never said go over and dislike somebody. I've never said don't watch. I'm like, do what the fuck you want. My consideration is this. You have to ask yourself, am I doing something that's ethical by doing this?
Exactly.
And that's it. I want people to ask themselves that question. And for them to come after me saying I'm the unethical one, Stephen Medical. If you think that's the issue that's at hand here, based upon your misunderstanding and Kyle's misunderstanding, then you've lost sight of the big picture, because that's just you being butthurt.
Even if troll people. Even if there was an issue with Medical, it's a separate issue. It has nothing to do with it. It's irrelevant to this part. But it would be its own.
I find it comical.
It's an ad hominem. To be honest with you guys, it's an ad hominem. That's all they're trying to do. Is if they're using this talking point, all they're trying to do is basically move the goalpost into a category to say, "Oh, look, Steve's also dishonest." So
it's too quo deflecting, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If they think that I'm dishonest, why don't they contact my lawyer? I'll give them my lawyer's information. Let them make a case for that. Go ahead. I'd be my guest.
Well, I just wanted to be clear, Steve, that when it comes to this situation. Yeah, see, when it comes to this situation, Steve, I want to be very clear. I'm not in anyone's side here. I'm only basing my judgments on what I've seen from the evidence from both Kyle's own word of mouth, which is evidence, it is proof, and most importantly, what I know of this situation. the legal ramifications in regards to the money owed to you, all that stuff, I'm still withholding judgment on that portion. You know what I mean? I hope you can respect that. Huh?
What about Bool?
Pool? What about Pool?
Boolinator.
I have no idea.
Why did he get kicked?
Well, if you want to talk about the ethical standing of the Non-Sequitur Show,
Yeah,
you should probably know who Boolinator is.
Yeah, he was the producer of the show, and he got kicked for no reason whatsoever. What's the ethical consideration there?
So please inform me. So again, remember, I'm just taking this as much as possible as a third party can possibly.
You didn't know Boolinator was the actual producer of the show? I'm actually kind of surprised.
Well, as I said,
I don't know. Hold on. You said you watched the Death of the Non-Sequitur Show video, right?
Yes, I did.
Boolinator was in there.
That's Bool, the producer.
Oh, okay. Now
I saw
light bulb click. Yes, I get it. I can see the light. There you go.
Yeah,
I apologize.
So if you wanna talk about,
I've attained a lot of information in relation to this over the last 2 days. I hope you believe me on that.
No,
I can tell that you have. I know T-Jump didn't. That's why I get on T-Jump's case. Is he doesn't do any due diligence for his debates. He doesn't do any research. He doesn't do any kind of research. I find it to be just a shitty way to debate.
Yeah,
Sorry.
The only debate I knew about T-Jump prior to this is I checked out his channel about a day ago. To be fair, I don't know much about T-Jump or Tom, but as far as I remember, the only debate I saw between him and someone else was on the issue of rationality rules. That's the only debate I really saw that I remember from T-Jump and his position. So that's as far as my knowledge goes. So like I said, I came into this discussion knowing as far as I know as a third party could know and trying to represent the position as much as possible.
And that's fair. Why don't you do this, though? Why don't you contact Kyle and ask him why he won't open the books to you?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. You seem like you're an honorable guy. You and I have had our instances on Twitter, but we kind of moved past those things because I recognize you're intelligent adult, and so we kind of moved past those things. So I think that you're an honest guy. If you were to get a hold of Kyle and say, hey, I will act as a neutral party. Let me see the financial records to say the money's there. See what he says. Because he won't show them to anybody. He won't show them to.
So I guess the modern day debates wants us to come on in a couple of weeks. He said on the chat or something like that. Modern day debates. He said something on. Huh?
Who does he want to come on?
He said that he wanted me and T-Jump to come back on with Kyle on in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, and by all means, I applaud that decision.
I promise you,
he won't do it, but I really don't think he will.
Well, he
could, whatever, maybe.
But if that's the case, then Steve, then that demonstrates that someone's being dishonest in this position.
Yeah.
Because if someone is, if I was in a position where someone was speaking out against me, I would want to at least represent my side as much as possible, or at least bring someone forth to do so. But I may be wrong.
I just can't imagine how you could possibly have a conversation about the efficacy of supporting the Non-Sequitur Show and not talk about Bool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of, I agree with that. Bool was an intricate part of that, especially when he was kicked off.
Like I said, that's one of the reasons why I apologize, Steve, on Twitter, because I didn't felt that I didn't know, I should have.
You needed to come to me first.
Huh?
Yeah, Chesh knows a lot of the details. She's been annotating a list she's been like the record keeper, I guess you can say.
Archives,
yeah.
So
she knows a lot more about this than anybody, to be honest.
It's been a year and a half since this whole debacle started, correct?
Well, yeah, because like I said, I in November 22nd, I was like, okay, so when are we going to get some money out of here? He offered to give me $1,000 a month, right? And I said that's fine. And I even said, give me $1,000 a month till I could take a lump sum because we were trying to do accrue assets. I did have some medical stuff going on, but $1,000 a month would have put me over the limit anyways. That's what people don't understand. It's all, $1,000 a month would have put me over any medical limit. So I was still happy to take it. I was like, okay, pay me $1,000 a month. When I'm ready for a big lump sum, when we have worked it out with the taxes, okay, that's fine. But I didn't want to like to tax him as far as being overburdened to say, I want, give me like $20,000 right now. I'm like, okay,
well, Steve,
give me $1,000 a month till after tax day, because he was like, well, after tax day, then we'll figure it all out. But I didn't get $1,000 a month.
If I can just ask you this one facet, so I have my understanding on this.
Yes.
I'm a disabled vet, so I get 50% disability through the VA. Are you talking about disability through the VA, or are you talking about disability through the state?
I have zero disability on anything.
Okay, so it's
Zero.
retire. Is it like a retirement thing?
I have
or?
no retirement.
You
I get
guys
nothing.
want me to debate Kyle about this? That would just
Wow.
This is what he does. This is what people don't understand. I don't get disability. I don't get Social Security.
Wow.
And so this is the misleading information that's being put out there, right? Because
Wow.
my income has no bearing on my medical for the VA.
Yeah, it
Okay?
doesn't.
Zero.
Doesn't.
Right. I know this. They didn't know this, right?
I know.
But I had secondary insurance, and all I told Kyle was I want to look it over. It was see if it was worth losing the secondary insurance for, right? And he was like, "Well, I'll hold it for you and do this." I'm like, "No, I don't need any of that. Just show me the."
Can I, as a person that is primarily get my health care from the VA, can I take a minute just to explain for people that may watch this later how the VA system actually works?
1 second. I'm gonna read the super chat first.
Of course.
My unfinished journey, $5 from my unfinished journey. The last few episodes of Non Sequitur had topics oddly reminiscent of Non Sequitur Classic, and the only expert has been GE. And I've made comments asking, "Why is that?"
Yeah.
Good question. Why?
Good question.
Why could?
Good question. Explain how the VA works.
So here's how the VA works in a nutshell for everyone to completely understand. Coming from an individual who has 50% disability gets 100% of my medical care. The VA covers veterans no matter what your income is. They do ask for people to, if they have supplemental insurance, to offset the cost to the VA. It doesn't matter though if you have $50,000, $100,000 a year in income. If you qualify for medical through the VA in regards to the criteria, you can receive treatment even if you make a certain amount of money. Now, this requirement is static. It never changes. The only time it could ever the only time your VA approval for medical care through the VA ever can change is if you prove that you make beyond the threshold that the VA requires.
If you have disability rating, a special kind of disability rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't have.
But even if, like, my stepdad's a veteran too. He was in the Army in the 70s, and he chooses not to go to the VA, but he has the ability to go to the VA as much as possible.
Well, yeah, because the VA is very difficult, and that's why people have secondary things. This is why I asked him, let me look it over to see if it's worth it.
Yeah.
But this was in 2016 was the last time I ever used medical. So anybody who thinks I committed any kind of fraud, prove it.
But
prove that I committed fraud. Call the police, call Medi-Cal, call anybody you fucking want. Prove that I did, because I guarantee it. You don't have the evidence because Kyle doesn't have the evidence because it never fucking happened. But if you want to, let me finish real quick. If people want to run that narrative, all it does show is how desperate they are, because it's never happened. What?
Well, to me, the only people that would make such comments
Hi, Nikki.
Are individuals that don't have an understanding of how the VA system works.
Right.
That's the only type of individuals I could see making those comments. But
well, I mean, do you remember when Katie was saying, "Well, everything's been settled," and Steve's trying to like do something with the VA.
I remember that.
And I tried to explain to her, look, VA has fuck all to do with my income.
Exactly.
And I haven't used medical since 2016.
There's actually a side note real quick that I want to go back to about the debate.
No, please continue. Go ahead, please.
While James is still in the chat, because I don't know how long he's going to be able to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I hate to throw you under the bus, but you're the mod. If you've got somebody that you keep bringing on who doesn't know the topics and refuses to actually address the topics, you need to get on them while they're either, if you're going to have them, while they're there and being like, no, that's off topic. Sorry.
And actually, while James is still in there too, if he wants, I was going to contact him anyway. I will be available for discussions on non-sec. I would be happy to make myself available for any kind of debate or discussion on non-sec. So James, get a hold of me. I sent you a DM anyway. I was going to do that at some point because I
love you. It's just that's the point of being a moderator. And I love you.
Yeah, I know. And I understand James wants to have a very, very neutral platform. I get that. But like Rez said, and other people have said, and I will tell you, when you have that group of people that you know are known trolls, they will do nothing but distract from the conversation. So they're just not worth having around.
That was specifically to modern day debates.
Yeah, this is why I don't have any of those trolls in my live chat. And then they bitch, Steve censors, Steve's blocks, Steve's whatever. I mean,
but that's what we talked about on our other show. There are lines. There are lines where it's like, this is just, there's no point in talking to you.
Right,
It's not
right.
beneficial in any way, shape, or form. And yeah, I'm allowed to censor whoever the fuck I want. This is my platform. Eat a dick.
If I can ask this question, so it's just for a good viewing for everyone to know this, Steve. What do you wish had happened in regards to? I know you wish that you probably didn't split from the platform you built, but if you were having to be forced out from maybe medical reasons or what have you, what do you believe would have been the best way for it to for that to happen? If I can ask your opinion on that.
Well, there's no medical reason to be forced out. Two things should have happened.
Of course, but I was just giving an example.
Kyle should have started a separate channel, like I have a separate channel that had been independent of the Non-Sequitur Show, because the direction he wanted to take this Non-Sequitur Show, nobody wanted.
Hey,
and I told him this.
Hey, he kind of did. It's called Ad Homies.
Yeah, he tried.
It's got no content on it.
Got no content on it. I know that, right? And that was well time ago. He created Ad Homies. He tried. He was going to do that. It didn't go anywhere because he didn't put any content on it. But that was the intention. Although he said he was like, "Well, I'm not going to create another channel." He already did, right? I remember him saying, "Well, I don't want. I'm not going to do that." You already did, but yeah, for him to do that would have been fine, because he didn't seem to understand that the Non-Sequitur Show was catering to a very specific audience. That wasn't Jimmy's audience. That wasn't Manny Bouse's audience. It was an audience that we had cultivated, and they wanted to see very specific type of things. They weren't interested in his grinder. They weren't interested in GE talking about his penis size. They weren't interested about GE, Katie, and KC talking about ridiculous things. They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. This wasn't the content that Non-Sequitur Show was comprised of. That was the vision that we had on it. He had friends with them. He became friends with GE and KC and all that. And he was like, "Oh, I'll just start bringing them in." Didn't ask me, didn't ask Bullinator. Right? It was Kyle's decision. And I told him, these are not good decisions.
Yeah, that's something that we touched on.
So did a lot of individuals want it to be like a kill stream type of scenario, or like blood sports? Is that what people were talking about?
No,
it was just more higher end discussions.
Yeah.
So like they had Kraus, they had like many people.
I'm thankful it never ended up being the blood sports type of thing, because
we didn't like the blood sports. No, neither one of us wanted that. We wanted the Maggie Brysons on. We wanted the coin guy on, right? Rick. We wanted Sygarts. We wanted that kind of discussion. But when you have people like Katie come on without a crystal ball, that added nothing to the dialogue. She added no counterpoint whatsoever. It was boring dialogue between her and Kyle. Nobody wanted that. And I kept trying to explain to him, this is not content that anybody's interested in. And he's finding out the hard way now. That's what people have been saying when I told him that from day one. But what the hell do I know, right? He didn't value my opinion. It was all whatever the hell Kyle wants.
Well, that's something that we discussed a long time ago, back when this first started happening. I had specifically, like on air, had asked Steve directly, "Hey, how many of those extra hosts came on did you bring, or did you have a say in?" The answer was one. One of them.
Well, and here's the thing, which is, first of all, a lot of it's become the Katie content, for example, and I think she likes to discuss either fraud or what was the other one, like herbal remedies that were frauds and stuff like that. And I don't think that's the audience that was already built there. And the reality is that if you take a look at, they're still suffering a net loss in subs of about 130 subs every single week, net loss, which for a show that should, even just on autopilot, still be getting new subs every day, is with the numbers that they have, they should be getting new subs. And they've already lost, I think, most of the ones that they're going to lose as a result of what happened with Steve. I don't think there are many people now quitting as a result of what's happening with Steve. The reason they're losing subs is because nobody likes the shows.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for doing things like the Jilly Juice and the fake remedies and stuff like that, because there are ways to go about that. There are other channels that do this very, very well, and those are the people you would want to have. That's who you'd want to have to talk about. You'd want to have like GM. You'd want to have Sir Sick. You'd want to have Professor Stick. All three of them would have been fantastic, and you could have even had all three of them do a show together. Like, just have all three of them come in and be like, "Hey, what's the dumbest thing you've seen?" Hey, what's the dumbest thing you've seen? Hey, what's the dumbest thing
I'm still
you've
trying to get
seen?
Professor Stick in. He's always said that he would, but I haven't really.
I would love that. That'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
But
I've been
that's
watching
the-
him for a while.
That's
See,
the point.
when
The
it
way
comes
she
to my
does it.
understanding about what the non-sequitur show's audience is built upon. This is from my examination, from my experiences watching your content, Steve, at the time, is it was a neutral ground for ideas. It was one of those platforms in where you had two individuals who had similar viewpoints in regards to secularism, but you had different views on atheism versus agnosticism, what have you. But you allowed people with concepts to speak their minds and actually discuss which one was the better idea. And as far as what I've seen recently, in the last couple of days of my viewings, it is kind of like deviated heavily from that perspective.
What's a different
And
show now?
I
It's
don't
an
know.
echo chamber, and I don't watch it.
Steve, I just caught you in the chat telling people to go message somebody.
Yeah,
Well, and here's the other interesting thing,
just
which
teasing.
Professor
just
Stick. Go message Professor Stick.
Yeah.
a side note. One of the excuses that Kyle gave for his objections to Steve and why Steve had to go was that Steve was making it impossible to get the guests on that he wanted to get on. Now that the show is ostensibly in Kyle's hands, Steve has absolutely no say in it, despite the fact he still owns it. Kyle can do whatever he wants with it. None of those guests are coming on, and that I can tell he has no interest in them. The guests that he's interested in are not the kind of guests that would have objected to Steve per se. They weren't the ones Steve was engaging with and getting into trouble with.
No,
Kyle
the guests
wants
were
a different thing.
The guests were GE, Casey, Katie, and Aaron Ra, who, by the way, won't go on Non Sequitur now. He's even said, I have no plans to go on there. So
what was really the
president of
objection?
the United States. I'm sorry, chat. Yes, Nick?
No, I don't understand what the objection was. He says the objection was Steve was making it impossible to do the Non Sequitur show as it was supposed to be done. But he also wanted to change direction in a way that Steve was not, obviously would not have approved of, but Steve was not the obstacle in getting guests on in that new direction.
Well, yeah, and I also thought it was a very bad idea. I didn't like the direction he was going, and I'm sorry, but it kind of proved my case by the fact that people don't even like any of the new content, and they're not going to watch it, I don't think. Because putting all the ethical considerations aside, it's just bad. Kyle is not that entertaining on his own, and the people that he has with him are not that good to have an actual conversation with these people that we want to have conversations with that made the Non Sequitur show what it was.
I was watching a piece of it. I tried to watch it just because I want to see what's going on. I want to see how it's doing. And I saw GE talking about gynecology and talking about psychic gynecology.
Why would you make me relive that?
I didn't see that,
well,
but
because
I heard
the audience needs to hear that. The audience needs to hear it. That's what I saw when I came on, and I'm sitting there going,
God.
I had to stop, and I wanted to see what was going on, but I had to stop. And then I've seen so many other people saying I was done with the conversation at that point, and people who unsubbed, people who, by the way, were okay with what happened to Steve, but weren't okay with psychic gynecology. I guess
I'm so
that's
glad
where
I
the
don't
line
watch
is
that
drawn.
shit.
You count your blessings.
Yeah, I wouldn't be of interest in any of those types of dialogues, and I would be sitting there going, "Why are we talking about this?"
It was nails on a chalkboard, and I saw a few people in the chat saying too, it's like it's painful to watch, and it's painful to, and they seem to enjoy each other's company, and they seem to think that the fact that they're getting off on the discussion, everyone else is going to enjoy it, and that hasn't been the experience that I've seen.
Because I don't think they know how to carry on a decent conversation. I mean, first of all, GE is not as competent as people think he is. He's just not. I mean,
people think he's competent?
Some people do. Some of his followers.
I'm pretty sure the only people that watch him and enjoy watching his stuff is either it needs to be produced and scripted, or two, when he's on Non Sequitur, they just like to watch him be bad.
That might be true. I mean, he's like the only person ever lost. Well, okay, there's been two people lost to Ken Hovind, but
$2
he's the
for
second.
the Professor Stick Bribe Fund. Yes.
Yay!
Yeah, see, for me, when it comes to content, when it comes to on YouTube, one of the major concepts that I remembered when I was a content creator is you test out the waters, you go on a topic, and if that topic is not popular whatsoever, then you move on to something else, and you keep testing the waters until you find your formula. And I don't like scripted content, to be honest. I've seen a lot of people make content on YouTube that is heavily scripted. And honestly, it seems very disingenuous to me. And again, this is not to say that it is, but it just, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a big scripted person either. I do better in the
Exactly.
the off, just spur of the moment kind of things, right? Because I had that ability to adapt. This is why when we had guests on, I did my due diligence. I did a little research, but I was also able to adapt. Kyle can't. There's no way he can have conversations with half the people we had on his own.
I mean, half the time when I'm on this show, I don't know who the hell's going to be here, why we're having this conversation, or what's going on, because I get told like 20 minutes ahead of time, and I'm like, cool, sweet.
Oh yeah, that'll be a great topic. glad I love this plan. I'm excited to be a part of it.
What are we talking about? Yay!
I did better when I showed up on NonSequitur Show one time, right near the end, and I showed up when they were talking to Adam Kokesh, the libertarian guy. I didn't know what libertarianism was, and I found out about the topic 2 days ahead of time.
Gee, on the fly, learn this stuff. It was pretty good. I
got
was impressed.
Dave McGinnis to give me a 5-minute breakdown, if that, and then went on.
Harry Potter Pothead said this, which was nice. You want to read that, Trish?
You are good friends with Stephen McGrain. There's something I can support.
Don't kid yourself. She's really not. She's about as chaotically neutral sycophant, or no, wait. I'm sorry, sociopath. Sociopath. That's sycophant. Whatever. They both start with S.
It's true. To be fair, there's a reason why the paladin and the cleric, why the lawful and the good people will keep a thief around.
But you have to remember something, Chaz. You got to remember that sometimes you can actually cross-class as a thief, as a paladin. So.
Oh, are you going for the sneak attack divine smite?
Yeah.
I blew my whole load and now I'm done for the rest of the fight.
I don't get a thief paladin combination. That seems bizarre to me.
There's actually in 3.5. I'm not trying to change stuff, but in 3.5 they actually had some prestige classes that actually made you can combine paladin with thief. Or with
so what do? Say a prayer while you're pickpocketing?
You can do it.
No. It was actually adding in sneak attack at ranged with your lay on hands ability.
And you can make your divine. You can make your divine smite ranged.
Lay on hands saved my character many times.
I'm always going to be a cleric advocate. Sorry, cleric's the best class of all time.
All right, so real quick, Rez wanted to drop in here real quick. Rez, dude.
Hey,
hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. I had a question that I wanted to reiterate that I've already put in the chat. If you're coming into a discussion with a topic like, is it unethical to do X? And your position going into that discussion is, let's wait and see what the courts say. Why bother coming into that discussion in the first place?
That's a good point.
What the fuck is that about?
That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that myself. I hate you.
What?
You got a good point there.
I'm a fucking moron and I can figure that out for fuck's sake.
Well, we didn't figure that out because I didn't even think about that. Yeah. That's fucking pretty good, actually.
Flew over all of us.
Yeah. You're right,
and
though.
I gotta tell you, the courts aren't the arbiter of what's moral or not. They're the arbiter
they're not.
of what's legal or not. That's a huge distinction that many people don't understand. Is there is a difference between what's moral and what's legal, and that difference is important. And it's
but this is civil matter. Even if there's no criminal intent here, which by the way there is indication that there is, but let's assume that, just to make it simple, there's no criminal intentionality here. It's still a civil matter. It has nothing to do whether the courts convict or not. It's who has a preponderance of the evidence, and if T-Jump had done his due diligence, there's no question the evidence is overwhelmingly in favor on my side. Matter of fact, there's nil on the other side. When you have the only people out there that are believing this stuff are believing completely on faith, because go ask Sarah J, you go ask RJ, you go ask all the Lost Hero and those people over there on the other side, ask them for any bit of evidence or legalities of whatsoever of what justifies Kyle to do what he did. They have nothing.
Well, see, for me, when it comes to morality, this is one of the reasons why I was mentioning to T-Jump. If you call an African American person the N-word, society in the United States, at least in general, believes that to be an immoral thing, and it has nothing. But you can say it all you want. It's free speech. You can say what you want, but but most people consider that very immoral. And I wholeheartedly agree with. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names. I'm sorry. The gentleman that's below me.
Nick.
Yeah, me, Nick.
Yeah,
Yep.
Nick. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, Nick.
We call him Big
No worries.
Poppy.
I guarantee you, I'm worse with names than you are.
Big Poppy, he responds to that for some reason.
But that's what I was mentioning to T-Jump, Nick, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. That's why I was very puzzled by his statement how this was evidence, not proof, and how this one it goes in the face of what I understand of skepticism. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, and not every wrong has a legal redress. Just because something is wrong doesn't mean it's got a legal redress. And just because it doesn't have a legal redress doesn't mean it's not wrong.
Exactly.
And the courts will tell you that. The courts, a judge will be the first to tell you that.
But like Rez said, why are they debating if something is ethical or unethical if he's like, well, we're just going to wait for the civil case or whatever?
Can I just step in again? Rai Rez in the chat, who I speak with often, he said for the fun of debating it or something like that. It's like, yeah, that would be okay if your position going into the debate wasn't to wait until the debate would be essentially nullified in the first place. So why would you bother? Right.
Yeah. After the fact, it doesn't really matter. Right. Well, that's a good point, because that's why I wrote that letter, the open letter to Mr. Atheist and the content creators. After the fact, after this all comes out, there's going to be no question about it whatsoever. Okay. None whatsoever. I'm giving them an out. I'm giving them a parachute right now to say, hey, do you want to like call Kyle out and ask for the books and show that you have some ethical considerations here? Or do you want to wait till after the fact where everybody kind of knows it anyways? Because at that point, what have you done retroactively to say, oh, I took an ethical stand after the fact? Where's all these people taking ethical stands here? This is what I don't understand. A lot of people are, don't get me wrong. Atheist Edge has, all the people here have.
Well, but here's I'm going to be honest and fair here. So I'm critical on this individual I'm about to mention, but the reason why I knew about your situation firsthand is before my whole debacle in the end of July was actually Dusty Smith, Steve. I want to be fair here. Dusty,
Dusty and I have a love-hate.
No,
well, we have a love-hate. We're frenemies.
I really want to like Dusty more than I can now that I'm actually involved in the community.
But to be fair, like I said, he actually came to bat for you, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
So
yeah, I know. That's all. No, we're frenemies. Look, I called Dusty out when I think he's wrong. He calls me out when he thinks I'm wrong. But I don't go viscerally after him, right?
Yeah,
he's welcome to call at any time. I'll have a civil conversation with him.
This goes back to what we were talking about yesterday.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
This goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. Just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean you're not supporting them.
Absolutely.
Disagreeing with them is supporting them a lot of the time. Just because I don't hold your hand and rub your dick every day doesn't mean I don't support you. Your ego isn't my problem.
Oh, that's hilarious. No,
so,
I don't know.
Steve is gone. Let's talk about D&D. So, if you guys are interested, 1 in the chat if you're interested, 2 in the chat if you're not interested. 1, if you guys want, I will host probably on the GDC. I will host how to play 5th edition, and I'll basically go through like the
I've
PDFs
never done 5th edition.
Why not 3.5? Since so many more people like that.
That's why.
So let me ask you a question.
3.5 is broken as hell.
Let me ask you a question then.
Well, yeah,
okay,
well, that's because you can minimax like crazy, which I like to do, but at any rate.
So I have to ask this real quick, Chesh. In regards to 5.0, okay, I'm very versed in 3.5. I'm also a GM for 3.5. Mm-hmm. What is the fundamental differences? I know they got rid of a lot of the domain spells for cleric, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they kind of mixed the domain spells into just the regular casting list.
Gotcha.
So they've got the classing list, and then some depending on what domain for a cleric you are, you will get those spells for free. Essentially,
so
they
aren't in addition. They are okay.
Yeah. 5th edition basically. So 3.5 ran its course and got broken as hell. And then did Steve just leave? He hit the wrong button.
Oh boy. As long as we're still broadcasting, that's okay. Street fight to see who's in charge
he
now.
rage quit the conversation because of the D&D talk.
That would have been really funny.
I like D&D.
That would have been really funny. 3.5 ran its course, and then they did 4th edition. And 4th edition was very limited in what you could and couldn't do. It basically told you everything that you were doing, and it was kind of trash for that. 5th edition is kind of a nice marriage between the two. It's not as simplified, and it's not as like this is what this spell does. You can still get to be malleable about what the what the spell does and how it works. It leaves a lot more up to the DM, and it leaves a lot more up to the players.
Well,
to be able
Glitch
to
wants
actually
that.
play the game with having the less broken garbage that was in.
Glitch is actually supposed to DM for us. So when Glitch lets us know when we have a DM, a game going, me, you, and a couple other people are supposed to play 5th edition. I think he's running. So.
Have you guys ever tried? Are you guys ever fans of the Dune franchise at all?
Doom?
Dune or Dune?
Dune, not D-U-M, not Doom. Dune.
I've read the books.
Yes.
Frank Herbert's. Yeah, I've read Frank Herbert's books.
I haven't read the books, but I love the miniseries.
Oh my god, read the books, man.
The books are the best. I mean,
I'm not much of a reader.
The ecology of the sandworms are pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but what I thought that was the best about Frank Herbert's books is this melange, that the spice, right? When you drown a worm, the last breath that it takes, it's captured, and then the women will take that and they'll call on this really bizarre mind trip. And it turns their eyes blue, and they become one with all the knowledge from every other person, like from the same cast. What they called Reverend Mothers.
The water of life.
Yeah, the water of life.
Yeah.
So
right.
in Dune,
it was literally the last breath of a drowned
worm dies.
Yeah.
When a worm dies in the Dune franchise, there's something called spice flow.
Yeah.
And what happens is the little worms, the future bigger worms, are embedded into the body of the big worm. It's kind of like a cocoon of like multiple worms. So when there's spice flow, the spice flow is when the worm actually dies and purifies the thing, and then it spreads out to small worms.
Frank Herbert had a brilliant ecology of this. It was I liked it. I thought it was one of the best series I ever read.
Yeah, in reference to Frank Herbert's Dune, if you ever get a chance to read it, he has a very interesting take on the concepts of religion. Frank Herbert was very, very critical on theocracies, and if you read like God Emperor of Dune or Dune Messiah, you'll see exactly his criticisms of religion. So
yeah, by the way, I think
suggest reading it.
Acquire Mind is right. Spice Blow wasn't the dying breath of the worm. That was from the excretions. The last breath of the worm, when the sandworm was drowned, that breath was captured. That was the substance that Artrides had drank, and he was the first male ever to be able to survive the process, because before only the females that could do it. They became the Reverend Mothers. Right?
Yeah,
that's
that was
his eyes
the
were turning blue.
Nobody does a patriarchy better than the Drow, or a matriarchy better than the Drow.
Well,
but no, I'm a big fan of Dune. Yes,
it's the sci-fi equivalent of Tolkien's work. I mean, it's the sci-fi equivalent of Lord of the Rings, and it's in fact I use it when teaching, because it's impressive to be able to build such a complex and difficult world. He never does something you see in most sci-fi books, which is the info dump. He doesn't sit there at the beginning and say, "This is how the world works. Now go into it." He explains it as he's going, which he does beautifully well, and makes such this huge complex world, but you're never overwhelmed by it. It's worth the read as opposed to the movie.
Let me ask you this, Nick. Would G, Casey, or Katie be able to have a conversation on this?
I don't know if they've read it or not. It seems like it's
doubt They don't seem to know anything about anything.
It's not the topic that I think they would be interested in.
I don't care if you support NSS or not. I'm still getting half the proceeds from that channel, legally speaking.
Regardless,
right? I still have to fight for it. That's why I have a 12-page civil
Quick,
lawsuit.
Everybody go sub again.
Well,
so
it's not go crazy, but
if I can ask, when is your litigation actually supposed to take place? So you can get, when are you going to get a determination on the actual?
It's on the second rewrite. It's just going to be filed within the next couple weeks.
Gotcha.
I've already approved it. I've already had it notarized. Now's my question to T-Jump. If I was to be paid, why do I have to spend $2,000 so far to have litigation? It's coming out of Kyle's pocket because we're suing him for it. Why would he do that?
Well, he's had every opportunity. His defense, he's only got one defense for why you haven't seen the books, and it's a legal defense. The defense is he can't show you the books because it might make him complicit in any illegal activities you're doing. I have spoken with three lawyers. I've spoken up with 3 lawyers about that defense. 2 of them criminal defense attorneys. The other one actually worked for he was a legal counsel, but he was an accountant as well for a business. And they all said they've never heard of any possible grounds.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, my lawyer's
And I will do it
he
again.
hasn't either. He's just like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
So I'm gonna do this challenge, and I haven't done this challenge in about 2 or 3 weeks. But for the first couple of weeks after this happened, I issued a challenge, and the challenge is this: Kyle is being ostensibly is going to be sued regarding these matters. He says he has retained an attorney in these matters, and he's had that attorney now for ostensibly 60 days. Now, that attorney has yet to contact Steve, and Steve's been going around saying, this is what's wrong with the channel, this is why I don't like the channel. That attorney hasn't contacted Steve and said, hey, listen, could you keep your mouth shut and maybe we can work something out. That attorney has not said, this is why you're not getting what you think you're entitled. Nobody even knows the attorney's name. So here's my question to the live chat: if there are any attorneys out there. One, is there any set of circumstances under which you would be retained as an attorney for somebody and not contact the opposing party within the first 48 hours, especially when they're causing damage to the property? And would that not be malpractice if that hadn't happened? So one, is there any set of circumstances where that would not happen? And two, is the withholding the books because turning them over after you've admitted you owe that money, turning them over would in any way implicate you in any legals or any tax shenanigans by the other side? I have yet to have a single person say that either of those, that my assessment on either of those, which is that would be malpractice for any attorney to do either of those two things or claim either of those two things, that I'd be wrong on that. I haven't had anyone challenge me on that. I challenge the live chat right now on that.
I challenge the same thing because my lawyer's like he's a little bit stunned. I mean, straight up.
Hey, Steve, did you ever get a chance to hear about the situation that occurred among the content creators around, I think it was a year and a half ago, on that channel? What was the name of the channel? Channel Awesome. Did you hear about that situation that occurred there?
Oh, I'm a little bit familiar with it.
I don't think
yeah,
so.
So there was a situation where Channel Awesome was a envelope of content creators, and it's very similar to
game reviews.
Huh?
It was movie and game reviews for the most part.
Exactly, but it's not in your spectrum of content, but it has a very similar situation that you're currently thinking. Maybe if you ever get a chance, maybe, huh?
It does?
They basically kicked out a lot of the individuals that belonged to Channel Awesome, and they basically took the money and ran.
Oh, who did?
The guys who were running Channel Awesome.
Doug?
Is that his name?
Yeah, that's Nostalgia Critic.
I don't know if it's the right. The content that maybe I'm thinking of, because I know there was a
Channel Awesome is the Nostalgia Critic, and it was Doug and his brother. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I apologize,
as far as I know, they haven't taken the money and ran. But there was an issue with sexual abuse and assault that was going on, and it was getting covered up by like the corporate part. So it wasn't necessarily Doug. That I'm not sure.
I apologize if I mentioned the wrong body. I apologize for that. But there was I know about a year and a half ago, the situation happened where there was a company that was representing multiple channels, and where they basically went bankrupt or they went nil, what have you, and they ripped off a ton of content.
Oh yeah, that's not Channel Awesome. I know who you're thinking of.
I apologize if I said the wrong name. I didn't want to implicate anybody falsely, but I forgot the name of the channel. But
I don't know what you're referring to.
Isn't it one of those kinds of companies that's supposed to like protect YouTube channels from
Correct.
Yeah, Matt Pat did a cover of this. Hold on, I'll find out what the name is.
Like potential reprisals from like copyright claims and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's very similar in nature to your situation, Steve. And so they basically took their platforms and took all the revenue, and basically all these content creators were out of thousands upon thousands of dollars in relation to that situation. So maybe, I don't know. I don't remember the name.
I couldn't even weigh in on that.
I'm pretty sure it was Defy Media.
That's the one.
Oh, yes, I heard about this.
Here is a link to Matt Pat's coverage.
Still doesn't strike a chord with me.
Can I real quick? I got some replies to some of my legal questions. The first one is from let's see. RNGD Gaming at Nicholas Lamar Suitor. Well, it would cost approximately $400 to start the suit.
Thank
you. Thank you. That was very clever. I appreciate that. And then he's perma-banned. I'm gonna find out the ban.
Screw that guy.
Right? Exactly. Who is he for being clever? Yeah, well, I could tell because he knows what he knows how to hit. He knows what he's saying. And then I got another one, which was a lawyer, and this guy is a lawyer, and he said that basically nobody would ever accept a retainer under such circumstances, except under one set of conditions, which was if Kyle was absolutely loaded, then they would be willing to be on tap, of course, and just sit there and do nothing. But otherwise, no lawyer is going to do this. And by the way, there's another reason why, which is, and this is the thing, lawyers work for the client, and their job is to give the client the best advice possible and then do what they're told, which is often what they do. But there's a set of circumstances under which lawyers will eventually quit. And the reason is because if they give you advice and you continually do the exact opposite of the advice, it makes them look bad. It makes it look like your lawyer is the one giving the bad advice, and they don't want their reputations destroyed. So if Kyle is violating has violated a number of things that any lawyer would say, don't do this, and Kyle goes off and does it. So I can't fathom that any lawyer would at this point want to stick around with him. I don't know what. So
it'd be super malpractice at some point because I've given my lawyer carte blanche. I'm like, you're the expert. We're in your hands. Both Glenn and I were like, you have our, you have our full. You do what you think is best, and we have a little guidance, but we're giving it all to him. And we're like, we trust you.
That's
and,
the best.
Yeah,
and
he's loved it. And he was like, he actually thanked us. He's like, I'm thankful. He says something along the lines of thank you for being amicable and providing, quick responses and information. I think we're like his best clients right now because we give him everything. He contacts us. We get right back to him.
Well, I mean, up until this point, I thought like Kyle was just straight up lying about having a lawyer or any kind of representation. Is it possible at this point he's gone through multiple lawyers and they've all
I don't
told
think he's
him
ever.
the same
I don't think he has ever had
He's
one.
not taking it and they're quitting.
No, I don't think he's ever had one. Now people will say, well, Steve, you said he had no. Nate Brody has one. That's not what I said. What happened was they took one contact. Again, people don't give principal charity, so they took one thing and ran with it rather than ask me about it for clarification. Because fuck trolls, right? They don't give a shit whether I clarify or not. But I never said he was his actual lawyer because I'm not an idiot. Nate Brody works for New York. He's in North Carolina. I understand that he's not well versed in North Carolina law. My lawyer is in North Carolina for that reason, right? But I do think that he still talked to him at some point. I just don't know when. If I'm wrong on that, so be it. I was wrong. Life goes on.
So your opinion is he, at this point, has not had a lawyer officially?
To my knowledge, no.
It seems that he might have vaguely talked to somebody who might be a lawyer or might know some stuff about lawyering.
At this stage, we're working on the assumption that he's not had official representative.
Yeah, no, he talked.
Well, yeah, we have to because we haven't provided any information about them.
He talked to a troll named Agrippa who thinks he's like some legal expert.
Who's
got
that?
everything. Yeah, who's that dude? He's got nothing.
The guy with the yellow kangaroo sign. That guy.
That guy that doesn't know fuck all from anything, and he got everything wrong. And I think
that was the guy who's Red's dog who got put in.
No, it's Red's puppy. It's Red's puppy that I think we're thinking about.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because everybody that Kyle's listened to has got shit wrong. That 2.5 gigabyte file that I have on Discord, everybody that was talking to him got shit wrong, straight up wrong about legal, about the facts of the matter. And I'm like, okay, good job. You listen to these people.
He's using Australian law, which is it's sitting there going like, you do realize this isn't happening. Australia's not going to have legal fees.
Like he was like, Steve can't sue for legal fees. Oh, really? The fuck you can't? I got the general statute that my lawyer is using to do exactly that. Now, if you think you know more than a lawyer practicing in the state that I'm suing in, by all means.
Robert Payne in chat, he Googled lawyer.
Yeah. Sean said he likely went to askalawyer.com and asked his question, but forgot the little disclaimer of advice given here is not to be taken as legal advice.
I will.
Hey, Siri,
I will tell
can
you.
You represent me in law?
Siri, Siri, tell me how to defend myself.
Siri's his lawyer.
Steve, Harry Pothead's asking about the ACA shakeup.
What about it?
Could you address and ask Steve what are the views on, or what's your view on the ACA shakeup? Just wondering, it's weird hearing a bunch of crap coming from ex-members and absolutely no response from the current.
I have talked to some ACA members, a couple of them. There's some private stuff that I really honestly can't get into, but I will tell you that there was a shakeup with John Laikola. Did I pronounce last name? Jen Peoples and Tracy Harris. They didn't like the fact that Jamie Boone had rescinded the announcement that they made that was trying to condemn rationality rules. And so when they took that back and they rescinded that proclamation, they weren't happy about that. So they left. But there was other internal politics that were going on as well with Claire and some other people when it comes to the elections that they had. Jamie Boone is no longer the president. I think that went back to Matt. But there's been a lot of internal politics there, a lot of SJW stuff that they wanted to go in the terms of atheist plus and feminism, and half the people didn't want to. There's been internal discord between the host. What are you going to do? I mean, it's just they think they're going to have a channel that's based upon atheism, and yet they allow these other things to be forefront of their goals, which are like feminism and trying to condemn rationality rules for his video, which I think that myself, Lizzie, and Sarah did a really decent job, at least talking about. That should have been done ages ago, but because you had people like Essence of Thought, because you had people like Objective Subjective, and those guys, EOT, Goddess Iwan, these people are trying to stop conversation on these topics, that the conversation that we had would not have been able to be had 2 months ago. And so the ACA, they had a schism because half of them thought one way and half of them thought other way, not recognizing that was not what the intent of the atheist community of Austin is about. If you're going to have a community that's about atheism and you want to promote atheism and you want to talk about theology and all that kind of stuff, fine. As soon as you start getting into the social aspects, like, did rationality rules create a transphobic video or not, you're going to have a schism. It was inevitable. That's my view on it.
Can I throw in my 2 cents on this? Because my position on
Please.
this, Steve, pretty quick. So here, see, I'm what you call the default position. I've had a great discussion with Sarah about 3 weeks ago in relation to this. That's why me and Sarah know each other in regards to our conversation. But to me, in my opinion, I think both sides are wrong on this discussion, and here's why. As a skeptic, I look at things from as a default position that I come from a subject that I pretend I don't know nothing on it. So the amount of information, scientific evidence we have on the issue of transgender individuals is few and far in between. The only study one side represents is this systematic review of 8 studies and 31 policy reviewings of this. And right. There's only been 3 concrete studies done in the last 30 years on transgender athletes. And the reason why I'm saying I'm on the default on this is both sides are claiming that there is an absolute determination on one side or the other. And that to me as a skeptic is just unfeasible.
No, I don't think that's actually the case, though. I think that
Plum's video on it.
I think that the other side is making determinations. But when I talk to Sarah and I talk to the Donkey Tree, Jen, and I talk to other people, they're actually saying that they agree with you. There's just not enough studies to be done.
Exactly.
So it's half the transgender community is saying, hey, there's not enough studies to be had. But then you have the other side going, oh, there's already conclusive studies. And I'm not seeing that either, by the way. The studies that they quote, they're very limited. They are, I think, taken out of context, and they don't address certain considerations that we talked about it on the show that we did. None of that was even really kind of brought up. And it's to me, it's if the ACA wants to have a separate chapter dealing with these types of issues, that's fine. But when you have people that think that somebody like Rationality Rules or Matt Dillahunty is a transphobe, you've lost all sense of reality.
Yeah. See, even since day one, since I've been critical on this whole situation, I personally never considered Stephen Whitford to be actually a bigot, to be honest.
He's not, by any stretch of imagination.
I've always held the position that he made a bad video with those talking points, but just because you make talking points like that does not mean you are something. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree with you. And by the way, he corrected a lot of the things he got incorrect, which is what we would
the
expect
biggest,
from a good community.
Well, the biggest aspect for me, the most positive aspect for me that Stephen Woodford did is I don't know if it was Charizard with the guy I was having a discussion with, or Sarah, or whoever mentioned it to him, but someone shared the discussion I was having with these individuals on Twitter in relation to this, and when they brought it up, he agreed with it. He actually agreed with our positions that there's not enough knowledge, and if there was no evidence, if there was evidence to show there was no, and that's what to me is the culmination of what happened to me in the end of July. I was actually called a bigot and a transphobe because I said biological male and female at birth.
Well, welcome to my world. Sarah's been called a transphobe.
I know.
I think there should be an interesting conversation that could easily be had, but I think that's a topic for another day. Is just like SJW tactics, because a lot of the issues with SJW as a concept isn't necessarily that what they're standing for isn't a good thing. It's the tactics that they're going about utilizing these things, and the fact that they're just overdoing it.
Well, the weaponizing of
weaponizing the platform. Yeah.
Well, and it's weaponizing sort of the elements of their personality too, and saying that any disagreement with me, if you think I'm wrong on politics, if you think I'm wrong on logic, on whatever, you're attacking me as a trans person. But I did want to say, just to quickly hit a couple other things. I do think Rationality Rules' first video was inadvertently, I don't think he meant to, but I think it was inadvertently, it really was very strong on this against position and said some indefensible points. Now, he clarified it, and his next one really was, we don't know, and we need to figure it out, and we need to admit that we don't know. And in some cases, the evidence doesn't look as good as people would like to say it does. And I think that was a very fair position. But what I've seen is, and this is where I've gotten blocked by a lot of people, because I said, okay, I want to understand where's the bar. There has to be a bar. We accept that if a man puts on a skirt, he can't, and says, I am trans now, he's not going to be allowed to compete. Even the most pro-trans groups have accepted that. So there is a bar.
Well, yeah, you have to have 12 months minimum.
Well, but that's the thing, which is I've said, what's the bar? How do we know? And how can we guarantee that this is some modicum of fairness? And then what I get told is, well, even asking that question, you're denying them their rights, and then that this is an assault on human rights. You are actually violating. So there's a percentage of this, and again, even a number of trans people say we don't know. But if you're not trans and you say, I want to understand this better, even asking the question, even trying to engage, can be painted as, and has been painted as, an assault on human rights.
Well, that's why they try to shut down. But that's essence of thoughts narrative. That's his, because he wants to shut down the communication.
If I can bring up something real quick, so I don't know if anyone here knows this, but I have Klinefelter syndrome. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
It's 20. What do you have? 47XXY.
Yes.
Okay.
And I also was
never heard of it before. I just pulled that out of my ass.
Around a year, about 2.5 years ago.
What lucky guess, Steve? Lucky guess,
right? Yeah, by the way, I took biology, and one of the things we learned about, but believe it or not, was chromosomal abnormalities of Turner syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and things of that nature. I did study this in college at one time.
No, but the only thing I was gonna mention is, coming from my position and coming from my own background in regards to who I am, that's, I think, is the fundamental problem. See, I agree that there are certain elements on this spectrum of social advocacy that just take it too far. And I agree with that. But I also want to clarify something that Chis said, and I want to be very clear here. I agree that there are certain extreme elements on the left, for example, in politics, that do take it too far. But you have to understand that there are elements, like I was at one time. I was considered an anti-SJW. And at the time, I would exacerbate the actual positions of some individuals to represent the whole.
That's not relevant, though. I didn't. At no point did I ever say that there isn't anything on the other side being just as much of a problem.
No.
But just because there's somebody on the other side being just as much as a problem doesn't justify you using those tactics.
I absolutely agree. I agree.
Well, that's Antifa's whole thing, right? I mean, Antifa tries to do the same thing, but they think they're going to be justified with their actions by doing the exact type of fascist thing that they're trying to fight against. They are a terrorist organization.
Well, as soon as you say the ends justify the means, as soon as that's
Machiavellian, though.
Any set of circumstances, it's really anybody can justify it, because everybody always thinks they're right. Nobody sits there and says, well, I think I'm wrong, but I'm going to fight for the view anyway.
But that's a very Machiavellian approach, to say that the ends justify the means.
Yeah, or that, and to be fair, in some situations, they might be right.
Well, no, it
That
comes
doesn't
down, and I'm
justify
not
it.
speaking.
It just means that they're not wrong.
Well, no, see, I'm not speaking in just specifics. This is, again, one of the biggest criticisms I have on social media in general. Just there's this element on social media that has this implication that, and they do this to make money. It's obvious what they do. They're grifters. They basically make content to symbolize a small group of extreme elements to represent the whole. And that's one of the biggest issues I currently see facing social media. And
well, that's just in the news.
That too.
That's
I
everywhere.
agree wholeheartedly.
That's how you know you don't have a real argument. If you want to be intellectual and have an actual argument, then address the arguments. Don't just pick out one random crazy person and be like, "This is what you're doing, jingly keys."
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Non-Sequitur Show is for now. I mean,
I mean,
and
at
that's
one
why,
point,
and that's why I'm very critical on my side now on those that are willing to shut down debate. Like I told you earlier, Steve, I have a big problem with this going on right now. Anybody who has a difference of opinion, like Sarah does, they are automatically labeled either a token or a bigot, and that's a huge problem for me. And
yeah, no, I
think
agree.
More individuals on my side need to speak out on it.
I find that to be offensive.
Puck's not happy about this.
Yeah, I find both those terms to be offensive when
absolutely
like Sarah I consider her actual friend. She's in my inner circle. She's definitely not a token because I have a lot of transgenders that actually come to the channel. So it's not like I have that one transgender friend. No, it disturbs me because she gets treated with the same vitriol that other people get treated with when all they're doing is trying to have a conversation and actually talking about things that actually are like in biology books and things of that nature. And people can't, again, distinguish between domains of discourse. So, I mean, when you call something like Sarah a TERF, that to me is like beyond my mental capacity to try to figure out how anybody in the world would think that would make any kind of rational sense whatsoever to call her a TERF.
Jason Bourne gave us $5. He says,
Jason?
gave Steve $5. I shouldn't say us. This isn't communism.
Yeah, it's all my shit. Fuck you all.
Why did Steve
your cut from this is that you're supposed to be promoting your fucking channel that you haven't done shit on yet.
Listen, don't tell me I haven't done shit on it.
No, sorry, the other show, the slippery slope thingy, whatever.
I did everything that I can do on that.
I know you've been blocked because of reasons.
At me. Why did Steve say he told Kyle to hold money because of Medi-Cal question? Why did Steve claim that he did not use the VA in over a decade on 7 out of 10?
Because sure, when I said I didn't use the VA for a decade, it was Loma Linda, which is actually 4 hours from me. I don't go 4 hours unless I absolutely have to. That last time I used that was sometime around 2005, give or take. I had a C4 C5 compression, and I also had an endoscope because I had pre-ulcers. So I had to go all the way down to Loma Linda. Now there is an office down here. It's in Murrieta, okay, but it's not the VA considered to be the Loma Linda office. So it's been 10 years since I've actually had to go down to Loma Linda to get anything done. The one down here is an actual hospital. It has the ability to take VA, but the VA office is actually right next door to it. If you look
it astounds me, Steve, that people don't understand like how the VA system actually
they
works.
Really don't. No, they really don't. So last time I used VA in a decade, what I meant was I haven't used VA as far as the going down to Loma Linda to have everything that I need to have done. That's a 4-hour drive for me. That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, because the VA in itself outsources to a lot of clinics that are not a part of the VA system.
Right.
They literally pay these other clinics outside of their scope to do treatment for veterans.
Yeah, and so
especially even more established now.
And when Steve asked took out a whole money because of Medi-Cal, that's not what I said. What I said was, and I have the actual quote, I will look over it because I wanted to make sure that if I lost my secondary Medi-Cal, which because it's closer office to me, that if I needed anything, it would be worth it. That was it. Kyle took that. Well, hang on, let me finish. Kyle took that and he ran with it to try to come up with a weird narrative. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the hell he was referring to. But my Medi-Cal was shit. Why would I care? I have VA that's free. So if I lost a secondary only because it's closer, only means I would have to go further. But I still have medical. This is what Kyle and a lot of people on that other side don't fucking understand because they don't get the VA system.
Well, and that's it. All that you were trying to do was by changing how the income came in,
which is fine. It's
scrape
perfectly
off
legal to do
4
that.
hours off your time. 4
Yeah.
hours off your time. You weren't getting any benefits you weren't
No.
already entitled
No.
to. There was no change in anything. The change was in venue, essentially, is what you were seeking.
It was, and I even said that a year. How long ago it was? A couple months ago, whatever it was, not a year, but a couple months ago. But I even said, well, I said a year ago to kind of Kyle, but I even said before, it was a convenience factor. Convenience. That was it.
And I just want to add
nothing changed in my benefits.
And I just want to add this real quick, Steve, so if everyone understands this, when it comes to VA benefits, it has no determination whatsoever in regards to your income whatsoever. You can get VA medical benefits. You can get VA disability benefits. It has no implications on tax forms. It has no implications on state taxes. Nothing. It's literally null and void in regards to income. I just want to put that out there.
And here's the thing. Steve's lawyer's job is to protect Steve, and not just on whatever issue that Steve hired him for, but on anything ancillary to that. So the first thing his lawyer did was take a look at this and say, do we have any legal liability here? And he has to do it, and he has to give Steve an honest answer. And the reason is because otherwise Steve can't defend himself against it. He took one look at this and said, this is a joke. And there's a reason he said that. And if you don't understand the reason, Steve's said it many times, and I'm sure he's going to be asked again, and he's been asked 1,000 times. He still answers the question, which is awesome. But the other thing is, a lawyer who is obligated to give Steve his legal impression of it has looked at it and said, this is a joke. There's nothing here. And
like I said, Glenn Williamson, who's my attorney in fact, has been tagged on every correspondence I've had with my lawyer. Feel free to ask him if my lawyer's ever said, we have a problem here, or you've done something wrong. And anytime he did exactly what Nick just said, he was like, what the fuck? I mean,
Science First makes a good point about the debate. It says TJ was enforcing a false dilemma. It may not be unethical to support the non-sec until the evidence is in, but the more sensible approach is to withhold support until the issue is resolved.
That's a good point. Thank you.
I agree.
But in time says, and I think that's your co-host, isn't it?
That is my co-host. That channel is the new channel, and we're going to be discussing all of this ostensibly Wednesday. We have the entire history of the non-sec debacle coming up on Wednesday. But,
can I ask what channel that is?
What did it? It's in time. It's just YouTube. It's in time, and
gotcha.
There's a great picture of.
You need me to link it in the chat?
Yeah, that would be great. So I can have that for my knowledge.
You want to read this, Ben? You want to read it?
So the handsome guy is the first one, and then there's this clown with the hat behind me. So let's see. At Steve McCrae, and it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant anyway. Even if you were defrauding the VA and the government. Oh, this is a good point. It does not free him of his financial obligation.
Well, and that's exactly
what I said earlier.
And that's what the lawyer said too. He's like, why does he even asked me? He's like, why does he think that this is a defense? Even if this was a case,
it's not a defense.
It doesn't absolve him from showing you the financial records and the money, and giving you the money and what was due. It's not an excuse. There's no legal case for it.
And think about this. Put this in another context. You get an addition to your house. You then suspect that the guy who did the addition has been cooking the books. There is no legal precedent under which you are empowered to withhold what you owe him until he proves he's innocent, which is in fact also what Kyle, I think, said was he has to show that Kyle's other defense, which is insane. He has to show that he's paid all his taxes on this.
Yeah, why won't he show his tax returns? I showed mine. Glenn has them. Bull has them. Why doesn't he show his tax returns? Was he Trump?
How can you pay what you owe?
There was
you haven't seen the book.
I have the best people, believe me.
But I showed my tax returns. I got nothing fucking to hide. That's how transparent I am when I actually gave my attorney, in fact, and Bullinator, who's one of the most honest people you're ever going to want to meet, my tax returns.
Wait.
Hold on.
It's a catch-22. You can't pay.
Real quick?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read this real quick. Ha ha ha. That even said that you could get glasses to the VA, but even me and Ozzy could look that up and found out that you couldn't. Is that
only if you have disability can you get glasses.
That's not true.
Now hang on. In 2018, there has been some changes. There might be you can get a appointment through the VA now in 2018, but I'm still looking into that. But glasses will only for the longest time when I was looking into this before, you can only get glasses if you have an optical related problem that was related to either insufficient care from the VA or a medical disability from when you were in.
There are two
That's another
exceptions.
reason.
I got to mention, Steve. There are two exceptions. One, voc rehab. If you're going through voc rehab,
Vocational
through the VA,
okay, which I don't have.
you can get through there. And the second one is if you actually have some type of service connected and you're getting right out of the military, or you're transferring over to the VA, you actually get a one-time optical visit for coming right out of the
fair
military.
enough. Right. Well, I got it at 93, so that's
Nick,
count.
real quick,
why is this relevant? Okay. Yeah.
Nick, real quick, somebody's asking when your next show is going to be. I know it's Tuesday, but I don't know what time it's at.
2 o'clock. All our shows are at 2 o'clock.
Is that
on
EST?
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern
on
Standard
Tuesdays,
Time.
we usually do topics that are beyond the scope of either of the two hosts, so we invite a guest on to discuss a topic. Wednesdays, we do sort of smaller local topics. We'll be doing, I think, non-sequitur this Wednesday, also at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Thursdays, we do sort of the much larger topics, philosophical topics, discussing a lot of the stuff that's already come up today. We have scheduled for the next couple of weeks. So our schedule should be up there soon if it's not already, but next is Tuesday. And we have a special guest for Tuesdays. We're stealing, I think, everybody's favorite Cheshire Vic, who will be there.
What? No, wait. No, I didn't get permission
too late,
for that.
Too late. It's already scheduled, Steve. There's nothing. It's too late. It's too late. She's contractually obligated. We have Kyle's lawyer already to sue if you try to interfere in any way. And
Read that comment. Read this one because I actually like this comment here.
Who, me?
Whatever.
Deferring earned income to alter how it is reported is called structuring. Part of my job is SAR for structuring attempts. Doesn't matter if it saves you 4 hours, still structuring.
This is what kills me. First of all, that's not what structuring is. Structuring is actually when you have to pay employees. Okay, I was not an employee of Kyle. You can only have structuring when you have an employee that you're paying out when you're taking out less than $10,000 per. Hang on, my alarm's going off. What am I? Hang on, $10,000 at a time.
Professional over here.
Yeah, whatever. It's time to get up.
We've been doing so well with audio and being live on time.
Okay.
What time is it over there?
4:30.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is that deferring earned income. I had no fucking income to defer. He wouldn't show me the books. Do you not understand this? If this is your job, you should have a basic understanding of finances. You cannot defer shit when you don't even know what the fuck you made. What is wrong with you?
I think the argument is that you were at a minimum trying to do it, but again, that's it doesn't matter. You still didn't have the income or the books or anything.
Oh my God! Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah. And by the way, there is something out there. It wasn't necessarily the case, but there is something called building of an asset, where you take what's called a draw. If you take accounting, there was not even a draw that I was taking out. So if you're building up an asset, you don't have to you can keep it as owner's equity, and you keep it as an asset for the business, and you don't take a draw upon that. It doesn't count against your earned income. So whoever you are, you don't know fuck from Shinola because that's basic
a really
accounting.
Good point.
Yeah, I know.
I've talked a really good point.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
I know. I took 2 years of accounting. I mean, but it's like,
well, of course you did.
Well, sorry, I took a year and a half. I dropped out of second year accounting. I took accounting 1, and then accounting 2. I dropped out halfway through because I was so bored because we were talking about preferred and common stock. I cannot
wait. I cannot wait until this goes through, and then we're gonna show up on a show being like, "Yo, we won." We're all gonna be drinking champagne, and I'm gonna be wearing a blue suit top that's too big for me, and Steve is gonna be wearing the other suits, and both of us are gonna all be wearing all of the suits at the same time.
Yeah, but
first of all, I think I've earned some of those.
That has nothing to do with structuring.
I was promised all of the blue ones. I don't know why the blue ones.
I think I earned a few of the $14 suits. But so here's a question. All right, because something just crossed my mind. Like, let's assume, so Steve's position is that he was a co-owner, and under his position, he is absolutely correct about everything he just said in deferring the income. If, however, Kyle's position is that Steve was an employee, what does that mean for Kyle's liability? Because now, if Kyle wants to keep that narrative, which is because here's the problem now. If Kyle succeeds in painting that narrative, which is what he wants, he is now guilty of a crime.
Right.
If he fails and goes with Steve, so Kyle is actually in a very significant legal bind here, because if he tries to do his own defense to kicking Steve off in the first place, which is it's his show, he's now liable for the for even acceding to hold those. Wow,
Right,
he's got a problem.
Right, exactly. And I have discussed this with people as well, Nick. It's a huge issue if he was trying to do it as an employee. See, this is why I think I asked you, but I'm sure I asked Glenn and I asked Bull and I asked some other people, like, why does he want to have a meeting? And the thing was that we thought he had done something wrong, and we didn't know what it was. And so he seemed scared. He seemed scared.
And he offered you everything. He offered you absolutely.
He offered me everything. He's like, I'll give you everything.
By my bet. I'm standing by my call. I'm still betting that my chips are on the table that he did the taxes, but he did the taxes as if he had paid Steve.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. But again, this is opinion.
Oh, shit.
This is opinion.
Yeah, we don't know this.
This is not accusation.
No, there's no even evidence of that.
Right.
But
no,
yes,
I thought you were going down the cocaine route, and then you went down the tax route, which is even worse.
But it is possible. What I'm saying is, if that was the case, because it is possible. I'm not saying it was, because I can't do that. But I can say if that was the case, it would explain a lot, because he has massive issues on his end. I have no liability on my end. I have no criminal, nothing. I have nothing civil. No. I have done nothing wrong. I have no liability whatsoever on my end, guaranteed. But if he did that, then he would.
Anybody who thought you did, who was a friend of yours, would tell you, because they're a friend, and would say, Steve, I'm concerned, and I've got, and nobody. And
it's only these trolls running, this narrative out there, which making them look idiots.
Steve, can I ask?
Yeah, but read this first. I love Kel's disappointed mom. She's nice.
Oh, I was trying so hard not to laugh at that.
If you are still looking for the books, I can look in his elementary school synchronized swimming trophy box for them.
Sorry, Kyle's mom. I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I like how it's Kyle's disappointed mom specifically.
Well, ahead, Steve, I was going to ask you quick. If that is his narrative, wouldn't that also make him liable in regards to all the back taxes in relation to the income as well?
Yes. I think before you answer that, we should let Rez go. He's been waiting.
No, that's right. You can finish this one. I'll wait till after.
Oh, go ahead.
I just had two things. First being, if you were to... Are you looking for a conviction toward Kyle, or would you take a deal, and what would it be?
What do you mean?
And
conviction?
In terms of, through the court proceedings, if you could reach a deal instead of... having him convicted.
I don't think he has enough money to pay me off right now.
Right. But the other one was how much of the legal proceedings will be public, and or will you be sharing?
All the filings are public domain.
As are all the proceedings, unless if they do any kind of arbitration or mediation, that's private. But anything that happens in court is public.
The only time they're not public is if there's a safety issue, or if it's dealing with a minor or something along those lines. But this is all public stuff. It just has to be. Literally, I have it notarized. I have it signed. They're just waiting to file it, because I didn't hire just one lawyer. I hired a firm.
Right.
Okay. I have a firm working for me. So the person that does the litigation, the person that drafted the complaint, is not the same person who does the trial lawyering. So if it goes to trial, it's going to be a different lawyer, because it's the same firm.
I'm a complete layman when it comes to legal stuff, so I have no idea. But I was just
I
assume they redact personal identifying information and stuff like that, don't they? No, they don't. Oh, okay.
My information is all public, so it doesn't really matter.
But so here's the thing. So first of all, because there's a question of, especially, somebody who has high influence getting away with stuff, all of this is required by law to be public, with the exception of some extreme exceptions. But the other thing is that, oh shoot, I think I lost my train of thought. We were talking about the so here's the first time I ever questioned whether or not Kyle had a lawyer. In fact, the first time I realized I thought he probably didn't was, everybody always talks up their lawyer. Everybody always talks up, if he is a member at a firm, you don't say you hired the lawyer, you say you hired the firm. The reason lawyers work with firms is because, or at firms, and the reason that's very important is because That gives them access to the law can be so specialized that gives them access to other lawyers who are experts at other things, and they also get to cross bill for that, so they love it. But that way you really almost are hiring the entire firm. In fact, usually you are. But even if it's not that way on paper, if the lawyer's at a firm, you've hired the entire firm.
Right.
Now, what Kyle had said was, I have a lawyer. Usually, when somebody hires a lawyer, if they're at a firm, which any good lawyer is, they'll say, oh, I've hired a firm. And even if you haven't, you say it that way to posture the best you possibly can and to try to intimidate the other side.
But it's true, though. I have hired, the guy that's doing the trial case is not the same guy that drafted the complaint.
Which is why you do that.
Right.
But when he said, I have a lawyer, I'm sitting there going, uh-oh. If you have no lawyer, you say I have a lawyer. If you have a lawyer, you say I have a firm. You always posture as best you can. And I'm sitting there going, if his best postured position is I have a lawyer, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. No.
I can tell you this.
I don't think he's got one.
My lawyer has never seen anybody not give them their lawyer's information.
He's
never seen
he's got a good
before.
reason. He's got a good reason. Kyle did come out with his reason, which is that he doesn't want all of Twitter to spam his attorney.
Yeah, I told my lawyer that. I know he knows that. He's like, he's never heard anything like this.
You mean the trolls
before.
that he's hanging out with?
The trolls, yeah. Kyle's hanging out with a bunch of trolls, and yet he's taking their advice. Good for him. Thank you. But it's like, wait a minute, who's going to be calling Kyle's lawyer? All he has to do is give it to my lawyer. He doesn't have to give it to me. I don't give a fuck. Give it to my lawyer. He wouldn't even do that. What my lawyer's like, what the? He's like this guy won't even give me his lawyer's information.
Well, and he's been defending his lawyer. He's like, I'm nervous that this is going to happen to my lawyer and he's going to get in trouble. I was like, dude, you pay your lawyer to defend you, not the other way around.
I don't get it, man. I really don't. This is why this is like just so bizarre. And people that are still buying into his bullshit.
My Canadian girlfriend is my lawyer.
Well, that's what I say. I say, yeah, Kyle's got a Canadian lawyer. His lawyer lives in Canada.
If Kyle, super chat for $5 was, if Kyle offered your money and you denied a lump sum, what would that mean in court? What evidence supports the monies in perpetuity, preferably?
Well, this gets into some legal things. I don't want to discuss the amount of buyout.
I don't know if you can talk about that much.
Well, yeah, I can tell you I can tell you the facts of the case, that how much money was probably there. As far as what I would take as a settlement, I'm not going to discuss for legal reasons.
Well, yeah, nor should you.
I can tell you it's a lot.
Well,
yeah.
When I asked that,
too.
I wasn't asking for like a figure. Yeah. I was just asking, like, would you take a deal, and like what would that entail?
I'm not going to say one way or another whether I take it or
that's
not.
fine.
But I can tell you right now, we are suing for 3 times what he would have been paid off if he would have just settled this earlier on. So it's gone up quite a bit now. I will tell you that. That's going to come out.
Not a lot of states allow that, but
yeah,
Kyle
North Carolina does.
To live in the wrong state.
North Carolina allows for treble damages for what Kyle did. Yes.
Next one was Harry Pothead. It says, does it matter? Oh, it does not matter if Stephen was. I said Stephen. What? It does not matter if Steve was.
Only my mom does that.
It does not matter if Steve was doing everything he could to be illegal and cheat the government. Kyle stole from a person he called his friend.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I think that's something.
He didn't treat me like one. He didn't certainly treat me like somebody that knew what the hell I was doing, even though I kind of warned him this was not the direction he wanted to go. Red's rhetoric warned him this is not the direction he wanted to go. We're not dumb. I mean, even Kyle has admitted many times that he doesn't think I'm an idiot. I mean, he thinks I'm pretty intelligent. There's a reasons why a lot of people do take some of my advice. And when Reds and I both told him, this is not a good move, this is going to bite you in the ass, this is not the direction you want to go, we knew this to be the case.
If you look, if you go ahead and look at the videos from Reds' channel, one of the things that just blew my mind was that he threatened him.
Oh yeah, no, I was threatened. I was threatened too, and so was Rez. We were both threatened by a specific individual. I'm not going to say name for legal reasons, but we were threatened.
Oh yeah.
The recording is there. You can go and listen.
Yeah, there's no question about it. This is why we had to go forward with the suit as a little bit modified from what we're going to do. There are some reasons legal wise we're doing this, and again not going to give my strategy away. But I can tell you right now, I was threatened. Rez was threatened.
Yep.
That's fact.
And it's there. You can
Wait,
go look.
audio or was it that text from a while ago?
Audio. It's audio
Oh.
and there's a text
There's
of it
both.
as well.
There's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's
is
on-
audio
there's
available
a
for
couple.
listening to?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's on Red's channel. I'll put the links on Twitter. I'll put the links
It's
on
on
Twitter.
Red's channel, and we're gonna, like I said, we're doing this on
You guys
time
can do that on
Wednesday.
time. Yeah, do that on
And,
time. That's your guys' thing.
Yeah.
and we're
Can
gonna
I ask
have
you a question quick, just to fundamentally,
We're
from
gonna have
my
links to lots of
understanding on
stuff.
this. But how long did you and Kyle know each other before you guys started your the non-sequitur
Oh,
channel?
not very long. Not very
So
long.
like in a matter of months, or
Yeah, if it's that. Yeah.
so
but-
how, is it okay to ask just for basis? How did you guys just meet each other?
Oh,
Did you guys-
I've told that story a million times. You're gonna have to watch the old
Oh,
stuff.
why
I'm not
are
gonna
you
go again.
highlighting this person's comment?
Because I think it's funny,
again?
because
oh my god, we already went over it.
Because here's the thing. If this guy had any fucking clue, then he needs to contact my lawyer, because my lawyer clearly is inept.
Please go do a quick Google search for structuring. It's not limited to employee paychecks. It's a quick Google away.
Okay.
There are multiple types of structuring for different circumstances. Are you
Yeah.
talking about building structuring
don't-
now? Are you talking
no,
about the structuring of a pyramid?
I don't
yeah,
know.
of course there are different types
But
of
acquiring
structuring.
mind, I gotta tell you, go contact my lawyer if you think there's a case to be made here. I'm fine with it. Be my guest, because there's nothing here that was structuring. So if you want to put forth that narrative, you can, but you're saying that my lawyer and his firm are incompetent,
Yep.
Well, and
because
it's
there's
also
no evidence
the
for that
firm
whatsoever.
is the-
If there was
yeah.
any evidence for that, Kyle would have given it to my attorney. He would have said, "Here's my defense," and he hasn't. So
Co-
you're completely talking at your ass, and I think you
He's also
realize this.
butchered that username with those couple of comments you've highlighted too.
And keep in mind, Kyle, by keeping his mouth shut at this point, is doing himself a tremendous amount of damage, because he doesn't
huge.
now. He doesn't need to do tit for tat. And he doesn't need to sit there and try to argue this in the court of public opinion. But what he should do is come out and say, "My lawyer has contacted Steve, and they will resolve this." And
Not
we hope
me.
that everyone
Contacted
will
my
let that-
lawyer.
You know, or contacted, and he contacted anybody. I was thinking contacted Steve. This is what he should have done like months ago, before he actually had a lawyer. He should have said, we've been in touch, but there's been nothing. And he's sitting there going, they're impatient for this to be done. No. Steve's side is impatient for one iota of progress moving forward.
We've had
Even if that's
nothing
just the name
forward.
of the attorney,
We've had
if it's the name
yeah.
of the accountant, if it's a screenshot of one book somewhere, and all that's happened is, I promise I'll get you the books
Yeah.
at some point, which has been happening for 18 months.
By the way, this guy right here, he has no subscribers. I'm going to talk him up as a troll.
Kawasa says, anyone
Sorry,
worried if
If you
Kyle...
got no
I don't have any
subscribers,
subs.
yeah, but I mean, I don't think this guy knows what the fuck
No,
he's
it's a
talking
new
about.
account.
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah.
a new account.
It's a
If
new
you got no
account.
subs in here, yeah.
Yeah. So
Fourth Dimensional Jake for $2 did Red's post links for unlisted finally. No, I've got them all available. I went and dug everything up because you can't hide from me. But I think there's only 2 that were actually made unlisted. But if you go to my Twitter, I'll link them there. Give me a minute, and I'll throw them in the chat here as well for anybody who wants to watch them.
I'm thinking about I'm thinking about making a rule here. And I'll take you guys' judgment on it. So you guys tell me, and we'll give them some leeway here. But I have certain conditions that we should be able to meet in like a live chat. One, you have an avatar of some kind. The people that show up that are trolls generally don't have an avatar. Not always the case. I know like a few don't.
This
But
is
you
my
have-
first time using this program, so.
But hang on, no, not this program. We're talking about a live chat.
Oh, right.
Right. So you have an avatar. You have a channel that's established. If you just created a channel and you have 0 subs, you have no avatar, you have no history, and you're just talking shit, to me, you're just going to be labeled as a troll.
Those are the 2 links on.
It just
that
saves a
are
lot of time.
unlisted.
And I know Ray Rez, I know you're not a troll. I said there's exceptions, dude.
Yeah, but
Don't get all-
see, here's the
Don't
thing.
go crazy with me, Ray. You know I love you, brother.
What they're going to do is they're going to say, well, again, you're blocking because you want to censor the
I don't
dialogue
care.
and you don't want
I don't
pushback. But
care.
here's the thing.
It really
Well, I
it
know.
doesn't bother me. It really
Where the
doesn't.
fuck
point
did
I
I
wanna
get 2
make-
subscribers?
The point that I want to make
The fuck?
The point that I want to make, Steve, is you have been asked probably 20 times. You've been asked more, but you've answered probably 20 times publicly about that VA thing. And you answered it this time the same way as the first. You didn't sit there and say, oh my God, I've done this.
Do I look concerned? Kyle looks like he's sweating a fucking brick every time. I have no problem whatsoever. But you know what? I think going forward, if anybody wants to know the answers to these questions, all I'm going to do is tell them, go watch the other videos. I can't continue with it.
Yeah, the link I just posted was Steve's Q&A.
Yeah.
Kawasa also for 5,000 said, anyone worried that Kyle might start appealing to emotion, lay out sob stories, and somehow fall into persecution narrative? He tried, and he pussed out because we were all sitting there waiting for him to do it.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, do you guys agree that at this point I've been as transparent as possible, and I'm
yeah. So
I'm not going to. I think I'm not going to bother. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with their accusations. If they go talk to Nick if you want to bother with it.
I've lost count of the amount of live streams we asked that question.
Right, I'm getting tired of it too. Right, but I feel like I owe the audience. I feel like I owe the fans of the Non-Sequitur Show, which a lot of them are my patrons now, and I'm bothered by the fact that I think they got screwed over.
So this is what we're doing on the show in time. We usually are going to be discussing much bigger topics, but we have Wednesdays set aside for discussing like individual smaller stories. That's going to be the non-sec thing. And it occurred to me that there's loads of videos everywhere about what happened. We're going to cover all of this. We're going to cover that VA. We're going to cover what you said on it in the past. And we want to try in 1 hour, cover the entire thing, answer both sides. And you've read my writing. We're going to approach it as unbiased as possible and say, this is what we know. This is what we're guessing. And here's the whole picture.
And by the way, it's not just one thing. It's a cumulative thing you look at when you look at these troll accounts, right? And like some are like, oh, it was made August 17th. Whatever. But anyways, Harry Pothead, just to be clear, I don't think Steve is trying to defraud government or anything illegal. Thank you, Harry Pothead. Appreciate that. By the way, it wouldn't matter if people think that or not. It's irrelevant because they can't show anything because nothing was ever there. This is a narrative that detractors are trying to do. The worst thing is that if that's the biggest thing that they're worried about, and they're not worried about $60,000 missing from the fans of the Non-Sequitur Show, it shows a very disproportionate amount of efficacy concerns here, right? I mean, just a huge amount.
Not only that is it not like relevant, but also, and it was asked in the chat earlier by someone named Michelle, how much of Kyle's criminal past is going to weigh into this court case, if any? Zero? Okay.
Zero,
and I was just curious.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that
have any relevancy.
I didn't know if that weighed into like his reliability as a testimony.
Not for a civil case,
like
no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we won't be mentioning any of that stuff.
I'm just curious.
Even in a criminal case, it can be hard to get it in.
Chess, you've been keeping a detailed notations, you said, on this whole situation on social media, right?
You muted, Chess.
I've got a lot of it.
Yeah.
No, so are you going to be like any form of material witness to Steve's case in relation to all this information? No, I'm just curious.
We might actually subpoena some people, but it will be on the other side, not us, not this side.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't have.
There are other people who are seriously considering dragging into the lawsuit from things that were said, but we're going to see how it plays out first.
I'm not. I don't have anything that is private. Everything that I have is essentially public or things that have been posted on. Yeah, I've just been librarying and archiving and curating.
If I ever do anything wrong, that's one reason why I don't ever want to do anything wrong. Because if you get Chess on doing
she has no royalty either. She don't care.
Listen,
she
like
will
I
get
said,
it all.
There's a reason why the lawful good people keep a fucking goblin around.
Yeah. Yep. So this is from Faithless Pheasant. You want to read this one?
Slippery Slope Show is on hold right now. Yeah, our animator ran into some personal problems, so while he's doing that, it's on hold.
Faithless Pheasant says $2 from Joe Hansen. Faithless Pheasant. I'm not doxing him, but I'm not a troll. I'm a pheasant. Well, we know that.
I can't get enough of the D&D references.
Yeah, it's not that I don't have morals. I just have different morals.
She's a little skewed. They're compromisable. They're
Nick
negotiable.
and Steve are just both better people than I am, and they're more noble than I am. I am an asshole. There is still method to my madness, and there are still things that I'm provoked.
I'm an asshole too,
essentially,
but
is
I'm
what
an
it comes
ethical
to.
asshole. Rez is,
Right,
Rez is an ethical asshole. He's an asshole, but
You
he's
guys
ethical.
are far more ethical than I am.
Sure.
You
use some questionable shit.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And the thing is that if I respect you, that's where that line is. And I have lines. If you cross these lines, you start getting shit back.
One of my favorite D&D related quotes, and I don't know who originally said this, I just came across it from other people that play D&D, is neutral is the best kind of chaos.
Oh. Okay. If you're gonna play a neutral, you need to. I think it's important that you discuss with your DM how exactly you're planning on playing a true neutral character. Because if you're playing neutral, do you mean you're playing balanced, as in like you have to do good things and you have to do bad things to offset, or are you playing neutral as in like you refuse to engage in anything that is morally questionable in one way or the other, or like how are you going to play that and then stick by it?
I myself am still a D&D babby. I don't really have anyone to play it with. The vast majority of the experience I have with D&D is watching Critical Role.
Fuck yes!
Good show.
So I'm just curious, out of just and since we're talking about D&D, what alignment would you guys consider yourselves?
Oh, we've done this before. Steve, you go first.
I could go anywhere from neutral good to lawful good, depending on the situation. I like to be neutral good, but I mean, I think overall I kind of tend to lawful good, which sucks. More so than I used to be.
Paladin.
So, wrong one.
You can be a lawful good druid.
True.
Yeah. No, I played a paladin. I had a paladin called Straight. What was the paladin's name?
I would
Straight
argue
Wind.
that Steve isn't lawful. Isn't a paladin because paladins tend towards the lawful stupid, and Steve's at least not stupid.
Not necessarily. Lawful good just basically believe that you follow the path.
That's why I said paladins tend to fall under lawful stupid, not lawful good.
Well, and a paladin can't be agnostic, but at any rate.
I actually was.
Well, they have to have a deity. Yeah, that's true.
I was working on building basically a cult inside of a D&D world, which is a cult of atheists who don't think the gods exist.
I'm definitely not chaotic good. No.
And because of the way paladin powers work is that you just have to believe in something enough to grant you power. You don't need to have a god. So the atheists, this group of culty atheists who don't think there's any god, would have paladin powers, but would have 0 clerics because clerics have to have a god.
How does that even work?
They definitely have to have a god. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where they get their power from.
So they're not only are they wrong and demonstrably wrong, but they're hilarious.
I love Talis and Jaffe's approach to creating an atheistic character in D&D, where it's just someone who's angry at all the gods and hates them all.
Basically a blackguard, yeah.
That's almost like a mesotheist, but a mesotheist technically is a theist. But
so what do you guys fall under?
I've been playing Sleeping Dogs, by the way, a new game that I started. It's not bad.
Oh, you started playing it, yay!
Yeah, thank you. Rez knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
thank you, Rez.
Rez, do you want to say what your alignment is?
We're just talking real life alignment.
As a person.
Yeah, probably chaotic neutral. I sit on the fence a bit.
Like me? Are you sure?
And I can be swayed either way, but I'm also a bit of a nutcase and I'm all over the place. So yeah, chaotic neutral.
Chaotic.
I consider myself neutral good.
Oh yeah, maybe chaotic actually.
Nick, what are you at?
Well, I like it. I think I'm like Steve on this. Yeah, I like to think of myself as it's the chair. I like to think of myself as neutral good, but I know Chesh is probably going to correctly peg me as lawful good.
No,
so
I think you're in between neutral good and lawful good.
I think you guys tend to fall under lawful good specifically because of how high, of how you have a higher bar for efficacy and also hold a very high bar into holding to those ethics. That's what makes it lawful. Not that you're following the rules of any particular anybody. Just that
not third-party rules, but we're following our own, and we adhere to that. If you're going to do that, then absolutely lawful good without a question. because I try to put my own ethics sort of first above anything else and make sure that I'm following those. And I'll go against, even the law. There are times to break the law, of course, but they are few and far between, and they have to be justified by some higher ethical standard.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. God's Auditor, who bought me my Johnny Walker Black, $5 from God Auditor. Inquiring mind would like to say that they're not accusing you of structuring; they just wanted to be precise about the definition. You be the judge. Whatever.
Then they should be more precise.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about yeah. Here's the thing. Look, if you're throwing out these terminologies, right? There's an indirect assertion that they're being committed, or else you wouldn't have brought them up. Don't play that game. I just find it to be very disingenerous.
Yeah, even I agree with that one.
Yeah. I
would argue, somebody asked me if there's something called chaotic gullible, and I would say probably the chaotic good characters are usually pretty gullible. It's usually pretty easy to trick chaotic good characters into doing pretty evil shit.
That's interesting. So Kwasa here is saying that they're actually neutral. Interesting.
Well, I'm 100% chaotic evil. I'm saying lawful good. So what do they do? Cancel each other out? We make you neutral?
Well, no, actually, interestingly enough, it's chaotic. If you look at the wheel is essentially goes around the alignments, and there's a reason why lawful good and lawful evil are right fucking beside each other. They are almost exactly the same thing. The only real difference is why you're doing what you're doing and how in charge of things you are.
Well, and the lawful, but the lawful evil can actually think that they might be doing it for whatever beneficial reasons.
That's
right.
Usually it's selfish reasons,
Makes right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the difference between.
Well, let's for example, if you go on the actual scope, like me and my friends used to love talking about what comic book characters or what alignment. For example, Lex Luthor is lawful evil because he believes might makes right. He believes in his own rule of law, but he does evil things. And where Batman is kind of the opposite, and where Batman and Joker are very. Oh, Steve again?
Yeah, he'll be back. Don't worry. Just keep going.
Okay. Fine. No, but that's kind of like the same thing with Joker and Batman, and that's a cool thing. That's one of the cool things about the alignments when it comes to the comic book heroes. Like Superman is lawful good, but Lex Luthor is lawful evil.
They're super malleable because it also really depends on who's writing them and what time period you're looking at. So I've seen full alignment charts filled with only Batman, and it's just Batman from different times.
Yeah, but in general, most people I would say agree that Batman is generally chaotic good. Because he does things outside.
People either say he's chaotic good, or some people will say that he is technically some kind of neutral evil. Almost not good.
Neutral evil.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Because he follows what he wants, no matter what anybody else says. He's selfish. He's selfish in following his rules, and that's why. And he's willing to break any laws to do it. The only rule he won't break is I don't kill people, and that's malleable sometimes. So,
relating to
me, like I said, generally the general consensus of what I've been told is he's chaotic good, and that's why he has such a good clash against the Joker, because Joker is chaotic evil.
Well, the Joker is definitely chaotic evil. I don't think I've ever seen any argument that says that the Joker isn't chaotic evil, because that's literally the embodiment of what he does. But the thing is that Batman slips a lot. And because Batman is so, he has his high ethical standards.
So I thought Superman would be lawful good, and then Batman would be chaotic good.
Yeah, that's generally the argument that's made. But
there could be differences of opinion depending on the circumstances.
There's an argument to be made that Batman is actually lawful evil because he follows his own laws by his rules, and fuck you if you don't like my rules. Which is lawful evil.
But I think there's more to
rules
it than that.
You're using. Yeah, because if you're using I'm not familiar with the 5 rule set. But I'm curious if the 5 rule set does view these somewhat differently than the 3 rule set or 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5 alignments were very important. 4th edition, they removed them, and 5th edition, you can use them, but it's not the end of the world.
But I still think that Batman would be doing it for a greater good rather than his own self.
Yeah,
even
but
though
it's
he would
his
defer
own.
himself.
Yeah, but it's his own version.
But I don't think deferring to your own moral code is going to be the definitive defining quality of being lawful evil.
I would make it depends, and I would say it would make it.
I mean, he
would
beats
depend.
people to a pulp.
See, to me,
How the hell do we end up on this? What the hell's wrong with us?
It matters.
We're nerds.
Well, yeah, and it matters because specifically he doesn't give a shit about anybody else's rules. If Superman walks up and says, "You need to calm down," he's like, "You, Superman, I do what I want."
But the reason why
Stop me, kryptonite.
But the reason why we debate Batman being lawful evil is because you're putting him on par with the same as Lex Luthor. If you look at Lex Luthor's methods, he is lawful evil by personification.
Yeah,
I would
even argue.
Yeah,
that.
Lex Luthor does
Lex
things
is-
for evil intent. He wants to control things. Batman doesn't really want to control things. He tries
Yes,
to.
he does.
Does he?
Yes.
Yeah,
He's a control freak.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
here's
he
the other-
does.
All right, what would you put Thanatos as?
Thanos?
Thanatos? Probably lawful evil.
No, I wouldn't put him
No.
as evil. He's neutral to good. I would almost put him as chaotic good.
Really?
I would actually put
Really?
him chaotic
Thanatos
neutral.
kind of good?
Yeah.
I would actually say chaotic
Really?
neutral.
Interesting.
Maybe chaotic neutral. The thing is, he's chaotic good because he's doing everything he can for what he considers is the greatest good.
I don't think that's how
He's
I
not doing it for selfish reasons, and
I don't
that's
think
what
that's
makes
what
him
meant.
evil.
I don't think so. I don't think that's really how it's defined.
Yes, it is.
He
Absolutely.
is doing it for selfish reasons, though. He even says it in the comic books that he basically Thanos basically went into his position because his family was killed because of the outslave, what happened on this planet, and his family was killed.
Yeah,
That
just
was
because
what
he
he
had
did.
having a tragic
Are we talking about
backstory-
MCU Thanos or comic book Thanos?
Yeah, that's also two different things.
Well,
Comic
no,
book
I think
Because
everybody
comic
here
book
has
Thanos
seen-
would definitely be like chaotic evil.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he was doing it to
I was
impress
going-
death.
I was going MCU because it's a little.
I
more general.
would agree that Thanos was originally chaotic evil or became chaotic evil, but he eventually shifted to lawful evil because of the simple fact is he believed that what he was doing was for the greater good based on his understanding. He actually had a rule set. His rule was to bring balance to the universe.
But
So
he
that's
would
why-
Wouldn't that be neutral then? Why
That
wouldn't
would
it be
be
true
also-
neutral?
True neutral.
Yeah, why would it not be
He
true
also
neutral then?
subverted the laws
Possible.
of nature in order to do it. So isn't that going against lawful
Did he?
dictators?
No. Well, it depends.
Well, because he removed 50% of life throughout the universe.
Well, keeping in
using
mind that
natural means.
we need to define our terms. Lawful is following the rules. That like being lawful
lawful means that adhering to a certain
is the moral
law set.
positive. Yes, so good and evil are not good and evil in D&D terms. Lawful and chaotic are good and evil in moral terms. All right, we on the same page? Or sorry, lawful and chaotic, right? That's moral good and moral evil. Lawful and chaotic,
Mhm.
right? And then good and evil is your reasoning for doing that thing. So good is selfless. Evil is selfish.
I don't think that's the only qualifier.
That's the
Yeah.
D&D schema. That's the way the D&D
Okay,
schema works.
well,
that
and,
doesn't have to
yeah.
be the only way these terms are defined. That's just the way the D&D's 5th edition schema uses it.
I learned it differently, and that may be the 5th edition.
Yeah, maybe
so
the 5th edition is different.
yeah.
The way I learned it is close, but so the lawful versus chaotic is just but do you follow the rules of society or do you break them? So
Right,
you know,
the ends justify the means
Yeah,
would
and
be
and
chaotic.
that's basically the difference between somebody who's lawful good is basically going to the government or who's ever in charge. My God tells me what the rules are, and I will follow those rules. Neutral good is I do the best I can to work within the system as best as I can, and chaotic good is I do the right thing. God damn it!
yeah.
Given that interpretation, then, do you think it's better that those kinds of dictates dictate how the character is supposed to work, or should be reflective of it?
Both. You don't want to dictate it too hard because characters can change, and characters can also be in situations that will change their mindset, or they'll go against.
I learned it differently. I learned it as more a lawful good character is going to say, "I'm going to withhold the law for the greater utilitarian good of society." The chaotic good character is going to say, "I'm going to break the law as needs be, as long as it produces a greater good for utilitarian type society."
Mhm.
That's how I remember it back, in the early days.
I have the same.
That's almost backwards to how Ches explained it.
Yeah,
right, I know. That's why we have an
changed.
impasse, I guess, between 5 and earlier forms. So
earlier forms, yeah.
So it's not like we're both wrong.
Be,
I think I'm going by earlier.
Yeah, the earlier ones are far more rigid than they are now because they've removed them in 4th edition. 4th edition alignments didn't.
How the hell are we all been able to talk about this topic? This is weird.
Well,
I don't get to have these conversations where I'm from because I'm in the middle of Australia and no one gives a shit.
On my channel, nobody can't say I don't have variety. Okay.
No, you had mathematicians and then D&D. I'm gonna have to get going.
I gotta wrap it too.
It's been marvelous, guys, but I need to bail. So
I look forward to seeing your content on Tuesday, bud.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's in time. Contact me on Twitter, Nick Suter. You can also, if you know, Ansgar. It's at 2 Eastern
EST.
Standard Time.
Yeah.
And we are going to try actually to, in particular, I want to try to simulcast all 3 episodes, the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But at a minimum, I'm hoping we can simulcast the Wednesdays here also on the GDC.
And that might be interesting.
While you were gone, Steve, when you clicked off, I chat voted that we should definitely have I'm going to go how to play 5th edition. How to build a character on the
I don't know what version Glitch wants to play, but I know Glitch.
I'm just gonna go do a general. Here's how you guys play the game explanation.
I'm down to give it a shot.
Tutorials.
I still got to finish Divinity 2, and like I said, I started playing what is it? Sleeping Dogs. By the way, I'm assuming that it's going to give you a hard game because I've spent about 15 minutes already, and I'm only going, holy shit, this is hard. So. Is it a hard game, Rex? Because it seems like it's going to be a really hard game.
Well, I'm just curious real quick. So you guys know I've already mentioned I'm a big Dune fan. They're going to be coming out with a new tabletop version of Dune. I don't think it's penned from Wizard of the Coast, but it's actually done from another company. You guys should definitely check that out because of the new Dune movie coming out. So,
doesn't one already exist?
Yeah, it's called A Dream of Rain. I actually did a campaign with individuals about a month ago, but it was never official.
Oh, okay. Because I've been looking into getting that. What's that tabletop game for Steam where you can basically it's the virtual tabletop. Is it just tabletop gaming or something like that?
It's virtual tabletop.
Well, there's different types of tabletop systems. There's GURPS. There's D20, modern.
Roll20.
There's a bunch. There's a bunch of systems.
I like this comment here. Then we're going to kind of wrap it up.
When a lawful person does something, they ask.
You can read it out loud.
When a lawful person does something, they ask themselves, why am I doing this? When a chaotic person does something, they ask themselves, why not do this?
Why not do it?
Yeah.
That's kind of good. I like that, actually.
Sean made a good
sounds
point.
more like me.
Sean Hufford made a good point explaining that essentially the difference between a lawful character and a chaotic character is how they organize their thoughts.
Yeah, it might be true. I think that's something to be said about that.
Yeah, so like I said, Steve, I wish I had spoken to you maybe earlier before I did the debate. I should have asked to have a discussion with you so I can get more of your take. I try to do my best to represent my position for you, and I know I probably. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I hope this stuff gets rectified. As I appreciate that. Do.
No, and look at, I mean, this is the whole thing about this after show is that basically, I've gone on record as saying that I think Tom Jump just can't debate, and I think that he goes in very dishonest, intellectually dishonest, because he doesn't debate the topic. He's only there to try to.
Original topic.
But he doesn't. He didn't debate that topic. He did no prep work for it.
The original topic was is it unethical to still support the NSS?
Yeah, he didn't really have anything to say on that. He's like, I don't care.
Yeah, listen. Next time you're gonna do one of these, at me.
Yeah. So I mean, if people
see, like I said, my whole principle is the whole financial aspect. Everything after the fact is important too. But my whole argument when I was going into that was coming from the way that you were treated on the initial separation from your platform. That to me is where my position was in reference to why it was unethical.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And it wasn't ethical. I mean, there's no question about the ethical issue. This is why I found it odd that T Jump is going to debate it. Exactly. He's a contrarian. But like I said, if you're going to debate something, I believe that you need to do some prep work. And he did none. He didn't know any of the facts of the matter. He didn't watch any of the videos. Whatever. If people think T Jump is some great debater, knock yourself out. I just particularly don't, and every philosopher that I know doesn't have high marks to say about him. So whatever, you know.
I get bored of watching people who aren't entertaining.
He's not entertaining. But anyways, guys, thanks for this. Like I said, you know, people are going to talk about this. People are going to say shit. I'm not going to be, I keep on saying this, you know, I know I said it before, but I'm just not going to be answering these questions anymore. It's not worth it. I've done it a million times. People can say all the shit they want.
You said all you can say.
But let them go on their fucking channels. Let them think they've proven something. Let them see that Steve lied. Steve done this. God bless you. Knock yourself out. I'm going forward with my life. I have a solid case. I may not get anything from it, but the fact remains, as Rod pointed out here, that the entire thing was unethical. And if people want to support unethical things, knock yourself out. But I am in the ethics. I am in the moral correct stance here. There's no question about that. So
the link in the chat is the list of videos.
I'm giving people a chance to do the right thing. I'm giving people a chance before, you know, they read the 12-page report that they tried to say, where are the books? And if one content creator out there can convince Kyle to show him the book that I trust, a P&L report, I will take the word for them. But I don't think he will. I don't think he'll show his best friend. I don't think he'll show his own disappointed mother. I am telling you right now that Mr. Atheist, KC, GE, Katie, none of them are going to get anywhere with him, because I don't think that he can account for the money properly, because he didn't know what a P&L report was, it seemed. He said something very odd. He's like, well, Steve always had access to the books. That's outright misinformation. I had never had access to the books because I don't think he understands what it means to have the books. Books are not meaning that I can look at the channel as a manager and say, oh, I can see the gross income. That's not what the books are. That's not how P&L is done. So if you're a financial person, explain to Kyle what we mean by books, because I don't think he has ever kept them properly. That's why he's been so hesitant to try to actually show them to people. My personal opinion.
Before we go,
last words.
Best Steve, I have one request.
Oh my God, you just walked on Chesh.
How dare you?
How dare you? The one woman in the room, you massage it. Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. You can go ahead. That's fine. I'll go after.
No, I apologize. No, this is really one I want to ask you, Steve. Yeah. Would you ever be willing to have a discussion with a group of individuals on your position on agnosticism versus atheism? I've never actually fully understood.
I'll take anybody on.
I'd love to hear about it.
It's so funny because I was in this pathetic group on Facebook called Prayer Works. And it was one of the lamest groups I've ever been in my life. And that's saying something, because I was in Atheists versus Christians. And people that may know that Facebook group, they know what a troll group that was. But this group, it was bad. It was horrible. But they had some atheists there. And one of them had pointed out something like, oh, you know, everybody's born atheist. And I was very nicely said, hey, you know, I'll debate you on this, you know. And all I got was shit and memes. And I'm like, so you basically have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Where's your evidence? And I'm like, oh, fuck it, whatever. And I post them all this evidence. Oh, that's just opinion. I'm like,
no, but
opinion, peer review papers, opinion. Okay.
No, but realistically, though, I don't want to debate you. I just want to hear your opinions on your views of agnosticism versus. I'd love to hear it someday.
Yeah,
I don't know how you would do it, but I would love to have a discussion with you on that.
You and me pick the day coming up here, and we'll have a one-on-one. I'm fine with that.
Awesome. I mean, I appreciate that.
Well, 2-on-1.
There's a bunch on the NonSequitur channel.
Oh.
And again, Tess,
it's not as confusing. It's not as confusing as people think it is. Matter of fact, the tired atheist is now the tired agnostic. By the way.
Actually, weren't most of the agnostic versus atheists? Those were on your channel, weren't they, Steve? On the after shows that normally happen, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I also have 2 videos. I have agnosticism is called Agnosticism 3 Ways, but I also have another one that I put out. So there's 2 videos I did standalone for agnosticism. They really give a really basic overview of the topic. I think they're pretty good for somebody who wants to understand what we mean by agnosticism.
My Unfinished Journey for $5 said Kyle is saying non-sequitur was always 100% his. If so, his claims about sweet equity, production value, etc. are irrelevant. His own words condemn him. Then and we have him on video saying that it was 50-50.
Yeah, multiple times.
We got
my last
audio, video, and text.
My last word is best character in comic book history to this very day. I don't care what anybody says. Is Dr. Goddamn Doom.
We can debate that.
I don't know much about comics.
I like Dr. Manhattan. Is that close?
No. Dr. Doom. There is only Doom.
Whatever. Man.
Again, we can debate that.
I'd ask why, but that's just going to continue this for another hour, so I won't do that.
Yeah.
A discussion for another day.
Another day, people. There you go.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Fun debate, whatever the hell it was. That wasn't a debate. I don't know what the hell that was. But I'm glad that we had an after show. I'm glad people have the chance to suss all this out. Let people say what they want. Watch what the hell you want. Support the hell you want. I don't even give a shit. All I give a shit is that if you think that these are interesting topics and you have fun watching this stuff, then I do too. But I don't watch any of that other shit. I don't watch any of that other crap. I really don't. You won't see me watching a G video. You won't watch me watching any of the troll videos. I don't bother with any of that stuff. I just simply don't. Matter of fact, people can tell you they've sent me these things. Say, have you seen this? I'm like, no, I'm not going to. It's just let them scream into the void, because it means nothing in the big picture, because I have moved on. I have a successful channel of my own. I have a great group of people that I associate with. And I also got a very large lawsuit that's in the works. So I'm not exactly in bad shape here.
You may not have an answer to this question yet, but do you have any plans for making a new channel with Reds, or are we sticking to this one?
I will tell you this. I'll tell you the same thing I told Reds, because I don't see why I need to hide it. If I got that channel back if I got channel NonSequitur Show back, I will figure out something to do with Reds. I would like to have Red to do something with the NonSequitur Show, but I would have to get that channel put back into my name, because we're suing him for fraud. Okay.
Yeah, personally, I would prefer to just let that channel burn and
that's
the ashes.
The thing is that either has to be continued as a business where I get something out of perpetuity, or we have to dissolve it. And if he can't pay me what he owes me now, which is going to be, like I said, very substantial, but what we're suing for, then one of the ways he could try to pay that off is by giving me back the channel. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I want to do something with Reds. I really do. But I told him the same thing I'll tell you. This channel here, I don't know how well it would work, because I'm all over the place. I have a lot of different topics. Reds works an awful lot. I don't think we can have a really scheduled program with Reds right now, because he works really a lot of fucking hours, So.
Yeah, I was going to throw that. I was throwing this at you, Steve, earlier on Twitter when I was DMing you. I would love to see a secular channel, like I would call it secular society. Like if there was an actual channel.
Secular just means that you have a separation between church and state. That's all secular.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people disagree with that.
But that's what it is. That's how it's understood.
I know, but
well, we'll have Reds on here when he's available. I got Cheshire, I got Sarah Michelle, I've got Nick, I've got.
Isn't this thing's channel technically secular anyway?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm a secularist when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
I totally believe in separation of church and state, 100%.
The thing is,
well, there you go. You've already got one.
Yeah, NonSequitur was sort of like a special, unique place to be able to set up and do these discussions, and you need more than one person to be able to set that kind of a show up. There is value, there is desire for that kind of show. It's just a matter of whether Steve decides to do it or not, and whether Steve decides to do it or not on the NonSequitur.
Well, I mean, but yeah, exactly, because Kyle and we had a good synergy there that he didn't recognize. He thought he was the entire talent. His ego got out, way blown out of control. But I recognize the fact that I had limitations of what I could do, but he thought he could do it all.
What do you think I'm here for?
Yeah, and you have that creative ability. There's no question about that. Yeah.
I always fantasized about you creating a channel with Reds called Reds and Stevie.
Well, that's creepy.
Red and Stimpy.
No.
That popped into my head one day and I couldn't get it out.
Rez and I, we're too much alike. We don't have that counterpoint with each other.
That's
this is the
what
problem
I'm there for. But
now Cheshire I would. She would have the counterpoint because we don't agree on everything, obviously. But that's fun. That's why I like her.
I need to draw that now, though. Reds and Stimpy. But, okay, listen.
You never tell an artist these things. Never tell an artist these things.
I did draw Steve McCrab. There is my tablet's I'm supposed to get the cord for my tablet on the 21st. So as soon as that's up, I gotta bang out a bunch of work. Once that work is done, I'm literally making a note right now to do that and make a video out of it, because that's fucking hilarious.
All right, guys, I'm gonna call it to the end. Like I said, we got a couple stuff coming up this week. I'm trying to get Ozzy back. We want to have a discussion. I got Nick coming back. We're gonna do an Ask a Philosopher. I've got a couple of nuclear engineers that are supposed to be coming on soon. One of them messaged me while we were live, actually, that I'm going to be getting back to. So we got a lot of stuff planned. It's just, man, I'm telling you, it's a lot of freaking work putting stuff on. It is not easy. I'm not Krabby Patty. Croassa, I could time you out right now because I'm ending the stream. You know that, right?
You dare.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.